everybody, and welcome back to the SMITE Pro League. Our first two sets are all done, but we're not done just yet. We've got a third one here on this lovely Sunday. My name is Jade. I'm going to have Mifflin help me out to talk about our third set of the day. That's going to be between the Camelot Kings and the Jade Dragons. Both these two teams sitting at the top end of the standings now with 2-1 victories between themselves as far as their record is concerned. But this should be a very close matchup between these two teams, Mifflin.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. Whoever wins is going to be winning topper seedings, if you would, and whoever loses will drop down a little bit more so to a neutral state. I think they're both sitting 2-1 right now in the standings, so creating some separation certainly strong, and finding a win against what I would consider to be at least some top-tier teams at the end of the day. We don't know exactly where they're going to end, but I've got the Jade Dragons and the Camelot Kings projected towards the top of the standings, which means that this set has added importance for each of these two squads. Want to win here.
Yeah, definitely need to get the win here. Let's take a look at the schedule, though, to see what you've missed. And obviously, this is the last thing that you can look forward to, at least for this week here. Jade Dragons and Kings, our final match of the day. The Bolts found a massive 2-0 win over the Leviathans to start the day out, and the Titans found a close 2-0 win over the Valhalla Valkyries. Almost turned into a 2-1 during that last little set here. But with the Jade Dragons and the Camelot Kings, something that we talked about very briefly at the very beginning of the day, I think you described to it as a heat check for both of these teams here.
I mean, all games are a heat check, right? I'm going to pull back the veil for just a moment. When a caster says heat check, it's because they don't know what else to say. But this is going to be a sick heat check for both of these teams.
Okay, just kind of throw that one out there here. Second seed of the Kings, tied in the third seed here for the Dragons between them and the Bolts, but only one of these teams is going to move on with a 3-1, be the first 3-1 here, at least in our league, to kick things off. The other one's going to drop down and be tied with the Warriors and the Leviathans as far as that seeding is concerned, with the 2-2 between those two teams. But where every single game matters as you move on to this first phase of the playoffs, getting a big win here, especially against another top-seeded team, getting those wins are probably, I can't say they're the most important. You want to make sure that you're definitely getting those ones against the lower-end seed, but getting these top-end teams, making sure you get those big dubs are just as equally important.
Yeah, to speak to the point that you're trying to make, when a top-seeded team plays against the bottom, it's almost taken for granted a little bit. Like, you expect this team to win. For example, back in the day, like the team Ghost up against Obey, for example. You just say, Ghost is going to win that. They need to. But the more nebulous matchups, the ones where you're closer in the seeding, where you're not exactly sure who's going to win, those are the games you really need to take, because that's how you find separation in the standings, and I'm sure both squads would love to do so today.
And the first thing that we'll talk about here between these is going to be the Jade Dragons roster. A little bit polarizing coming out of last season. They had these very high hills, but also these very low valleys coming into this season. It looked like it was going to be very similar. I mean, they had a very convincing win in their very first week up against the Solar Scarabs, and then a not so great, but still a fairly close matchup with the Tartarus Titans, even despite going down 2-0, and then they get a 2-0 over the Warriors, who were just coming off the hot seat of getting a win off of the Leviathans previously.
Yeah, so the Jade Dragons in a very good position right now, and they have shown again and again that they have diversified their win portfolio. No longer is it, okay, we win early or we lose. It's, all right, we could win early, we could draft for the late, whatever need be. We can play through the mid laner, now Pagon, new to the league and looking very good at it. Or you could play through solo, have Final K on these more aggressive selections, some picks that we haven't seen too often, things like the King Arthur, or even have a Panicat play something that isn't Uller, please. Please.
Maybe. Hopefully.
Please.
Potentially. Well, though, on the one that they did win against the Scares, Panicat did really pop off on that Uller, but maybe against some of these other teams, that Uller not going to be as potent here. Pagon on this Thoth really put on a show for us to just again, flexing on them how much of a god pool this player in particular has. We even see, even though he's not highlighted in this moment, a Susano mid coming out of him here. Pagon has really been able to slot himself nicely on this Dragons team, and talking with all of the members, you know, initially you have those growing pains. You get a rookie player coming up to fill in a spot that's been replaced time and time again on this Dragons roster. But every single one of his teammates has really been hyping him up here. I mean, he's really been able to show that he has found a nice home here on this Dragons team.
Yeah, if you told me Pagon had a couple years of experience in the SPL, I would be forced to believe you, considering just how well he's slotted into the squad, just how well he's already performing with the Jade Dragons. I do want to highlight Sam for Soccer briefly. In the past, Sam for Soccer was a jungler that was patented. You look up jungler in the dictionary, his playstyle was exactly that, but maybe one of his weaknesses, his Achilles heel, if you would, was the fact that Sam for Soccer would get aggressive very early on and occasionally would stumble. He'd fall for first blood, and it almost felt like that would completely shut down his gameplay. He would stop getting active. seems to have rectified that already in Season 9. I mean, up against the Tartarus Titans, recently we saw what? He blinked in at level 2 with like Osiris Jungle, got first blooded immediately, but it didn't slow him down. He kept getting involved. He stayed active on the map, and that is exactly what the Jade Dragons need from their jungler. So maybe a point of maturity for their jungler to just keep his mental in check, and so far the Dragons have been looking better for it.
And one of the things that we talk about with this Dragons jungler a lot is how Sam was kind of refusing to play whatever was the meta at that time. We'll see if he can do that here. But before we move on and talk about the Kings, we do have a very special Gorilla interview that came by Mifflin just before.
Miff.
I gotta get on the desk.
What? Are you already recording? I don't know. Who do I talk to? I can't go into the player booth. Oh, Biggie, how do you feel about this upcoming set right now?
I don't want to.
Biggie doesn't want to, so I'm going to go interrupt his players mid-discussion about the game. I think I got like 2 minutes till this starts. Kabam, how do you feel about this set?
Super good. Can't wait. Get in here.
Oh, God. Pagon, do you like K-pop?
Sure. Yeah. The mic though. What?
DMC. Okay. No. Oh, God. Fine. Okay.
Hey, don't show God I'm playing.
Don't
show
I won't. Well, okay. Don't show the God.
Yeah. They give away too much.
What do you think it's likely you're gonna play this God?
Oh, definitely. Big time.
He's not gonna play that God. Oh, okay. All right. We'll get to know what God you're playing. Why are you gonna play Set?
Because I can do this.
He teleported and it auto attacked. It was super sick. Thanks for checking in with the Dragons and also the Kings and also Kabam. It's been me, Mifflin.
And now, Mifflin, I'm not going to ask you to tell me what Fine OK was playing there. If it's any indication,
I'll do it.
what
is he gonna do? Stop me?
That's fair. He can't stop you now. He's in the player booth and we're here on the desk.
Well, maybe I wait till P's and B's. I'll let you know if it was. We'll talk about it at the end.
Good call. We'll talk about it there. If it's any indication of what we've seen from behind the scenes of these guys, they were all playing Kabrakan inside of a jungle practice right before.
No, it wasn't that.
It was all 5 of them. There was a set difference on that time, at least there for Pagon, because you said he teleport in and auto.
Yeah, he was really stoked about it. Like the energy Pagon was giving me, he's like, yo, because I could do this. He literally threw out a minion, teleported at an Odin bot, autoed once, and he was cheesing.
He was very happy about doing that here. But up against the Jade Dragons is going to be the Camelot Kings, another team that had a lot to prove coming out into last season. They didn't have all their players with them up until the very end. Then once all the players of the Kings got together, went for 15 games during their playoffs in order to qualify towards that World Championship. Did so and was the only team at the World Championship to take a game off the Leviathans. And it's been a back-and-forth tussle between these teams. I mean, up against the Bolts, they had a 2-1. Then against the Leviathans, had a 2-1 set. And I believe even their previous set was also a 2-1 here. So the Camelot Kings, a team to take us 2-3 games. But so far, has been coming out on top in these 2-1s.
Yeah, you know, in the SPL kickoff tournament, we had interviewed some teams asking them what they had thought about the Camelot Kings' performance at Worlds and what they projected the Camelot Kings, how they projected them performing throughout this year. And the common consensus amongst the pros is that the Camelot Kings are a team that are likely very much in contention for a world championship. They said from the reigning world champions themselves, the Atlantis Leviathans, they thought this was the second best team at Worlds. I think they're contractually obligated to think that because it's the only team to take a game off of them. But I'll be completely honest. I was not swept up in the hype. I did not expect this squad to live up to those expectations, but already they have done so. They have proven time and time again that they are a force to be reckoned with on the battleground. Great KDAs, specifically from Big Man Tings, my fantasy mid laner. Keep doing it, Tings. Love that from you. But also diversifying their god pools, which is something that Genetics had said in his interview last week, said that's the main thing they're looking to do on the Camelot Kings to continually improve. I'd argue they've done so already. This is a team that is continually iterating and improving on the style that they had already established throughout the course of last year, and they are looking very good for it. I've got high expectations for the Kings for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think that mid lane is one that we're going to be looking a lot at as this set goes on, as this game continues to progress between these two teams. And I think even the jungle is one that we're going to be keeping a very close watch on. The evolution of Sam and the kind of the change up in style of Captain Twig here as he's jumped into Season 9 being this kind of oddball pick out here. I mean, we've seen things like the Bakasura that nobody was really playing except for Scream, who was kind of the more oddball jungle last time around, or going for these more facilitator style roles, things like the Erlungshen, these Gilgameshes to set up for his team.
The Hunbots, the Bakasura, the Arachnes, right? Like
Weird.
Captain Twig, just incredibly versatile out the jungle. And that's kind of the namesake or the main MO of the Camelot Kings holistically. They play whatever it is that they want to play, be it a Hera in mid, or a Kukulkan, or a Ra, or Genetics going towards some of these more unorthodox selections as well. Mainly the Capri, but still capable of playing some of these other picks. It makes it very difficult to P and B against the Camelot Kings.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one to really talk between these two teams. Luckily for us, we got to talk to both these teams and see what they had to say against each other. So we're going to go ahead and throw that video up for you guys.
Our performance so far in this league has been hot and cold. I think you've seen kind of the worst of the Kings in our set against the Leviathans, and game 1 against Scarabs, game 1 against the... Okay, I've completely forgotten who we played against. You've seen kind of the best and the worst of the Kings. We've come back from 2 sets against the Bolts and the Scarabs, but in those game 1s, we just looked all over the place, really quite bad. And we lost that set against Leviathans, but we took a game while we were losing. So I kind of think you've seen how we can beat anyone, but right now it's about consistency. I think we need to play about us, not trying to beat what every other team's doing, just like play our own game the best of anyone.
Generally, we were fairly happy with it. I think obviously we'd rather win than lose. But the Titans are a very good team, and we obviously made a roster change, so we're still adjusting a little bit. I guess like consistency is always the big thing, but generally I think we as a whole, and definitely me, have been pretty happy with like how practice has been going, how like the matches overall have gone, especially after today's win, and yeah, I guess just keep doing what we've been doing.
So our next game is the Dragons. I'm feeling pretty confident. They had a slow start out of the gate. They did beat the Scarabs, but they lost their following game. So right now I think they've got a little ways to grow before they're a top solid team.
The Kings are definitely just a good team. I'm good friends with like Captain Twig or Ben too, and like I just like know how good of a jungler and player he is, you know? So I mean, I think as a whole the team's pretty good. They're pretty like always known for their like objective play and stuff, but I think generally we do fairly well into them overall, and I think we're pretty confident playing against them.
In my opinion, their biggest threat is Sam Fasoka. This guy, at the best of his game, he can be the best jungler in the league, but when he's not having a good game and things don't mesh around him, he looks like a lower-end jungler. And my fear is when we play them that he just has a good day, and in my opinion, that just makes it almost impossible to beat them.
I probably would say Ben or Captain Twig. I think they definitely have other good players, like Big Man can pop off, and you know, Genetics is like, he's pretty smart and stuff the way he thinks about the game, but I think generally the game kind of revolves around Ben like a bit, or maybe not in the sense where like if he's doing well that means they're winning necessarily, but he's kind of like always engaged in everything. So yeah, I think he kind of is their most valuable player.
I think we're going to win either 2-0 or lose 2-0. That's the nature of both of our teams. We're either hot or cold. You make a lot of mistakes. I think we're going to win 2-0, but I'm biased obviously. We'll see how the game goes.
So of the set against Kings, I think we're just going to 2-0.
The hot and cold nature of both these teams is described by Captain Twig, where he thinks that this set is going to be either a 2-0 win for the Kings or a 2-0 loss for the Kings here. And that's kind of the nature of these Dragon sets. Is it's not very often the Dragons do drag these out to 3 gamers. It's usually they win or they lose.
And it seems like, well, Twig seems to agree about his odds in this one. Worth noting, Twig says win or lose 2-0. Sam says win 2-0. A little bit more confidence from the Jade Dragons, but that seems to be their MO all the way back since the Ghost days. These guys play with confidence even when behind, and that has caught teams off guard. I mean, how often do we see the Jade Dragons 4 or 5,000 gold down just barrel stuff a Fire Giant or just walk straight up to a Gold Fury and catch teams unawares? Could be that we see something like that here today.
Well, we could see picks and bans for game number 1. At least I'm being told it's ready to go. And thankfully for the graphic, it will pop up. So that means we do get to jump right into those ones here between the Kings and the Dragons. But to kind of talk about your point there, you know, how many teams are willing, or at least for the Jade Dragons here, how many times are they willing to jump in and take these 50-50 chances? Well, this is the team known as the 50-50 when it comes to objective play. Fire Giants, Gold Furies, always that coin toss up here. between them. But as far as the picks and bans are concerned, nothing too out of the ordinary. RDO and Erlong Shen will be the first two gods off the table.
You know, in lieu of Gormizer being out this week, celebrating whatever it is that he's celebrating right now, I've got a fun stat for you, J-Mac.
What do you got?
What do you think in Season 8 was Big Man Ting's GPM ranking in the league?
I want to say he was probably third.
Close. Number 2.
Wow.
Beaten out only by Shinto. And that is a testament to the Camelot Kings' ability to just macro farm the map. Even when they were struggling to find consistent wins throughout the season, Big Man Tings still finds himself in the top 2 for GPM. Number 4 in KDA, by the way. Great performance from him. Great pickup by me for the Fantasy League.
You remember what Netroid's solo participation was? He was the player with the most solo
The
kills.
soloingest guy.
Yeah, I believe it was 13, if I'm not mistaken, that he ended the season with.
I'm not that good
so,
with the stat sheet, man.
That's just going off the dome, because I remember at one point we did a trivia and he had 11, and then he got like 2 more in a set after that or something. So at least 11 to 13 was his solo kills. But into the picks and bans for the remainder of them, again, nothing out of the ordinary. Probably the most surprising thing out of all of this is the fact that Medusa actually made her way into a top 3 ban. Almost every other team has let this god go through and allowed it to be this second pick slot. But the Kings leave it open, and that allows for Kleena to be a first pick.
A very versatile selection, has got flex potential into both the solo lane and the jungle, but in taking Kleena, they leave, the Camelot Kings that is, some priority picks available to the Jade Dragons. Namely, Yamoja immediately jumps out to me, as well as the Khepri, a pick that the Kings are very adept at playing. Genetics, one of the best Khepris to have ever done it. So we could see the Jade Dragons take that pick just to limit the Camelot Kings, and in doing so, could leave up Yamoja for the other side. So I suppose could even just wait out on that Guardian selection and instead look elsewhere, because no matter what, you're getting something all right.
Somebody's going to get something good here. The Jade Dragons are getting one of the more winning mages in the league here with this Habwa. 100% win rate on the four games that this god has made it in so far in the SPL for our first 2 weeks. Cernanos, the response immediately after, and that typically does end up being the answer back when Medusa is either picked up or not available. A lot of teams have been going over to Cernanos' Hachimon's, or not the Hachimon's, Heimdall. That's
well,
the other one.
Hachimon, yeah, more so now.
Yeah, now, especially with Zapman kind of keeping that number up there. But the Heimdall, the Hachimon, those kinds of gods still making their way through. Izanami, notably, has kind of fallen out of favor by so many teams. Maybe it's also just by the nature that Crit is starting to fall out of favor by some of these Hunter players.
Yeah, Crit's taking a slight hit. Izanami's been nerfed coming into some of these most recent patches, and with this new just like belt start in the duo lane, you could just get that clear on just about anybody. Very aggressive Guardian selections should make up the bulk of your clear levels 1 through 3. So it doesn't really need to be that infinite pressure selection of Izanami. The Khepri selection for the Camelot Kings, I think surprising nobody. Genetics loves going to this pick, has got a great win rate on it. Matching up with the Persephone, though, that is a bit surprising. I don't often expect Big Man Tings to A, make a selection this early, or B, go towards something like this. Generally, if he is forced to pick up his mage this early on, it's something like the Merlin, but it's still a style of play that I think Big Man Ting's very comfortable with. He can play that long-range artillery style, similar to the Kukulkans, the Ras that he's so apt to go towards. But this time, instead of just raw damage, he's also bringing a little bit of CC lockdown, Bone Rush, very similar to the Solar Beam as well, just ranged DPS. But what are you setting up for? As of now, you're setting up for a Kleena. That's pretty nice.
It's pretty good damage out there. And speaking of pretty good damage, Jade Dragons have drafted a Camazotz for their 3rd selection. Still some flexibility with their roster. This Habwa has been going most often to the jungle as of now. I believe
Sam
all
loves
4
it.
games that we've seen out of this Habwa has gone towards that role. Camazotz, still some flex between the solo and the jungle there. But seeing this Habwa, I can only imagine Camazotz going over into the jungle. Or mid, I can't completely dismiss the fact that we have seen
that's Pagon.
a Camazotz mid, and Pagon or Benny Q would be one of the players to do that here. And since Benny's not in the game, it would have to default over to Pagon. But as the bans come through, Bologna taken away by the Dragons alongside Cerberus. Meanwhile, the Kings will take a shot at a couple of the top-end supports. Yamoja going to be the first one that they take out.
Yeah, I was really expecting the Jade Dragons to take that Yamoja in the 3rd slot, and in not doing so, the Camelot Kings will address that immediately. Camazotz, worth noting, does have that flex potential that you bring up, mid, solo, and jungle, but Habwa, with the recent buffs, namely to Water Spout, no longer self-rooting, makes him just an incredibly strong jungler. You're able to rotate in, very easily line up a knock-up, never once locking yourself down. You're already very mobile thanks to the Atlas of the Yellow River. just giving not only you movement speed, but your team and slow immunity as well, which will come into play up against a Kleena and a Persephone. I think Habois likely slated for the jungle, which would put Camazotz more than likely in the solo lane. But that guy on your screen right there keeps me guessing, and I hate him for it.
It's going to keep everybody out here guessing. Even his own team is probably guessing right now, like, hey, Pagon, are you actually going to take that? Are you going to let me take that? And now with this
You think
Cabrakan,
Final K is like begging? Like, please, I want to play the Camazotz.
I just want Camazotz. And now with the Cabrakan here, I really don't know. I'm completely flabbergasted where everything is going out here. We might finally see a Habois mid, or maybe Mike is going to take this Cabrakan. Or maybe this Cabrakan is going to go over into the solo lane, and we'll see Habois still in the jungle and Camazotz mid. I have absolutely no idea where it's going. I do see, though, another Geb ban coming out here. And it's so strange to see so many Geb bans more than anything else, because we've yet to see a Geb pick so far this season.
Well, Geb has seen some buffs in the last couple of years, namely the Cataclysm now having base damage on it, so you can actually kill people with it, and it still does the HP reduction. So I think Geb, a fine pick and one that would have served the Jade Dragons very well. It's a very strong initiation tool. Blink Cataclysm going to be very adept at locking down Kepri, Kleena, even Sobek to a certain extent. With Cabrakan locked in, though, and looking at the matchup, assuming, well, maybe my assumption's wrong. I was going to say Kleena jungle, but now with Sobek locked in, maybe we're looking at a Sobek solo here with Kleena in the jungle and Kepri in support. I was thinking it was going to be Kleena solo up against Cabrakan, and that's a good matchup for Cabrakan, but I've lost that. And now the Jade Dragons,
What in the world?
they look towards Arachne. That's a Twig pick.
Yeah,
Surely
that's-
not.
No,
But
no
you don't,
shot.
But you don't love Habois mid in this matchup because he has to get so close to the wave, and it takes a little while till he's able to consistently clear the wave as well. And having pressure in mid is so important in the current meta because of how much farm those mid camps afford you. I suppose Arachne being a hyper farm jungler should be able to help you out a little bit in that regard, but won't help you in terms of wave clear whatsoever. And also another god that has to get in the melee range to clear the wave, which makes it so much easier for Persephone to line up some of this damage. I just don't think so. I do not think it's going to be an Arachne. But if it is, it's another single target DPS god, countered out by Kepri.
We'll see if they decide to lock in this Arachne. The Jade Dragons really keeping us guessing so far this year, Mifflin, as so many different picks have been coming out of this team now. We're actually seeing Panicat play something other than Ullr this game, so you get your wish at least there. It will be that Cernos. That's probably the only thing that we can lock in so far for this Jade Dragons roster.
How certain are you?
Is I'm gonna put my 100% certainty that one is going over to Pandacat, just because I can't recall any Cernos mids unless it's like a Cernos jungle of some sort popping out here. But now with a Mercury on the side of the Jade Dragons, that gives us maybe a little bit more insight as to where this roster is going.
Hear me out.
Okay, I'm listening.
Camazotz mid.
Okay.
Habois solo. Mercury in the jungle, Cabrakan, and Cern lane. I think that might be best allocation for matchups here. Just because I am so averse to having Habois in mid up against this draft from the Camelot Kings. Not only is it a poor matchup in a Persephone, but Kleena's got decent lockdown potential. Because Habois has to play so far up in the lane, she can essentially use Pierce the Veil as a wall to lock him down. I suppose Atlas of the Yellow River will give you slow immunity, so you're not getting locked down too bad, but it is still a good deal of damage output. And the Jade Dragons are just so weird that I'm willing it into existence. To reiterate, I think it's Habois solo.
Habois solo with the Camazotz mid popping out here. If we were back in the days, if Heavy Hammer was still a thing that slowed in this game, I wouldn't put it behind the Jade Dragons to throw like Mercury support with that kind of an item rush, but
No way.
We're well beyond those days. No shot that we see a Mercury support come out of the Jade Dragons team. But at the same time, it is the Jade Dragons. They would be the team to do something crazy like that.
They would be. Oh, for those of you who are curious who Final K was playing during the little Mifter view or Gorilla interview, it was Ull. I knew it wouldn't go to him. If that got locked in, it was going to Panda.
Yeah, I mean, Pandacat, or could have been Pagon. We saw Pagon play it once out of like the 8 games that it did get played by the Dragons during the kickoff tournament here. But still a little bit of guessing game to be had here with this Jade Dragons roster. With Mifflin thinks it's the Habois solo. As far as matchup concern goes through here, out of more maybe what we've seen kind of out of realism, though, where do you think this Dragons roster will actually pan out?
If I'm in the coach spot right now, I am actually putting Habois in the solo lane. But if we're going to go off like traditional Smite knowledge, like you went to Smite college, it's probably Habois in mid. Just basics there, because we see Camazotz so much more often in the solo lane. We see Habois historically so much more often in mid. But I just don't love that matchup, man. I've already gone ad nauseum on why I think the Kings have got a great draft to deal with Habois in mid. So instead, I suppose I'll address the rest of the draft. Having Camelot in mid would really alleviate a lot of that. He's just such a safe selection, has great wave clear. We know Pagon's capable of playing it. We've seen him do it a couple of times in the SEC. And in doing that, would net you a good deal of pressure and kill potential. Could start rotating in towards these mid camps a little bit more so. Limit the facet of the game that the Camelot Kings are best at, which is macro farm, playing around these objectives, pulling leads from nowhere, simply spawning more gold. That is one way the Jade Dragons could limit them. But regardless, the late game team fight potential of this Jade Dragons draft is incredibly high.
It's going to be a interesting matchup, to say the least, here in game number 1 between the Camelot Kings and the Jade Dragons. Who's going to take it? Let's jump right in and find out.
What a way to end this week in the SPL. The Kings and the Dragons, 2 teams with top of the standings aspirations and maybe expectations, as Dolson, Trelly, and Rosie one final time this week will bring you a fantastic set of the SPL. Final K is going to be on Camelot solo. That'll put Habois in mid for Pagon. And so SMITE College wins the day here, Trelly. And Habois up against Persephone, and maybe just the rest of the draft is something that Miff was a little nervous about.
Yeah, I will say Variety going on the solo back here, an interesting one. Obviously, Guardians right now very strong in this solo lane, but they're not there for pressure. And the characters like Sobek just wanting to sit back, farm effectively, and really sit at that tower line. I remember, again, I did this tier list with SOT. It should be coming out very shortly. I'll give you a little bit of insight. He said if you want to play solo back in ranked, the strategy is hopefully your opponent falls asleep because they're so bored, and that's why you would pick it.
Well, Final K under threat of sleep with the way that this lane goes. Camelot would love to scrap early, but I just don't think Variety is going to give that as an opportunity. All right, we're invading at level 2, Sam for Soccer. Sends Captain Twig off to the wayside. Variety is rotated out, though. Where is Final K? Here he is. But Captain Twig has already gotten first blood. And now Final K in the body blocks, desperately trying to hit auto attacks, but Variety just too strong. Is it going to be a 2-kill swing for the Camelot Kings? No, not just yet. Final K lives. But that is knowing your strong points to a T, and the Camelot Kings strike first.
Yeah, I think Sam might have thought at least a 1v1 here, or Final K is on the way as we see PBM goes for the blink in this duo lane. Not too much follow-up, though. The Kepri and the Chiron going to be sitting pretty right now.
For now, Netrioid and Genetics will live on just fine. Blink on for Polar Bear Mike for the next couple of minutes or so. Pagon doing just fine in the early part of this mid lane matchup. And up against Big Man Tings on Persephone. And BMT, over the last few years has just been consistently solid out of the mid lane. Above average, great even. And so Big Man Tings, I think, a massive threat on this Camelot Kings team that is sometimes overlooked. Not in a disrespectful way. I think it's just easy to forget sometimes just how good Big Man Tings is at this role. And so I look at this Persephone pick, and maybe in Mifflin's mind, a good matchup up against Pagon. It could be tough sledding for Pagon if Big Man Tings is able to hit his stride early.
Yeah, definitely. The Hebo, though, always going to have that option for the 1v1 potential. As long as there's no Kepri around, as long as Genetics isn't there to get that res. You don't have an Aegis available right now, just the beat. So the raw damage output of the Hebo right now is not going to be too much. But looking at level 5, those power spikes are always going to have to be watched out for. But I think you're right. BMT is going to be able to just farm up effectively. Already level 5 right now, as we see. So just not really want to take the 1v1, but outrange the Hebo. Try to poke him out as much as possible, but just stay ahead in the farm game. As we see Sam for Soccer just going for those back camp once again. Looking for that Sonic Boom. Mercury really has a solid gank opportunity at level 5, but before that, not too much early damage.
Wonder if Mike earlier on was even just hoping to burn some beads off of Genetics or Netrioid, because the moment Sam hits level 5, you have to expect that he's going to send his way down, usually the duo lane. He'll walk right underneath the tier 1 tower and ult just all the way down the lane. But that's something teams have, got to be aware of. But it's so easy to fall asleep at the wheel, I imagine, playing up against a Mercury. Like Big Man Tings right now, Captain Twig level 4. So Sam has another camp or two before he takes over to level 5. It's so easy to sit back by your tower and just assume that you're safe. But that's just the nature of Mercury. You can sit all the way back behind the tier 1 tower and dive you there in the mid lane. And so you got to keep your wits about you from this point on for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I'm looking at the builds right now for possible Sanford Soccer targets, and Variety immediately screams to me as a possibility because of the lack of bees, just going for the teleport, but the Celestial Legion Helm and the Vamp Shroud is going to give a lot of physical protection, not only against this Camelot, but the Mercury.
Mike is in mid lane. Captain Twig has to use the beads, and that's double effective as he's out of the Sonic Boom and the Grasp of, the Grasp of Death helped out for PBM there, but the Sonic Boom shrugged off by Captain Twig thanks to those beads. His big man Tings and Pagon have showed us that not only lane-wise there could be an interesting matchup there, but ult-wise in the team fights, how different these two mid laners could look. Big man Tings, of course, is going to have great damage, but lockdown and setup. Feels like Pagon is last hit. Big burst damage, confirm kills, maybe confirm objectives. And so there's going to be a difference, of course, in mindset between those two. But Polar Bear Mike getting active with his blink early in this game, looking for something in mid, looking for some stuff over in duo lane. And our first Sonic Boom of the game comes up empty-handed.
Yeah, speaking of different mindsets right now, looking at those supports, obviously Kabrakan, much more of a damage dealer, has the Stone of Binding. PBM is looking to get active very early with this blink. On the other side, though, Genetics has the Shell and going into Gauntlet of Thebes. He's going to be trying to stay back as much as possible, stay healthy, try to get these reses off, because Khepri really not wanting to be the first one in a fight right now. Probably trying to stay back a little bit.
Yeah, probably. Though it does have Scarab's Blessing. Nice power spike, kind of passive power spike to the rest of the Camelot Kings, and Genetics has traditionally been very on point with this pick, identifying the proper targets for the Scarab's Blessing. But how about the way that the early game has already gone here, Trelly? Just farm being stolen away, camps being stolen away, buffs being stolen away. We're already at 1,500 gold in the lead for the Camelot Kings and nearly 2,000 experience. At 6 minutes, with 1 kill on the board, that's very impressive in the way that the Camelot Kings are playing right now. 1 level over in duo, 1 level in solo, 1 level in mid. And there was just that invade that put Sanford Soccer down. The Camelot Kings, a team that we know can play the map so effectively even without having to find kills.
Yeah, there's a reason that when we do these interviews, all these teams harp on the map play of the Camelot Kings. It's just, they always seem to be in the right spot at the right time. Not Twig right now, that will be in the wrong spot.
Ooh, nice ultimate out from Polar Bear Mike. Gotta be a kill, and Crushing Wave face plants into the Kabrakan ultimate, but maybe serves Pagon better as he is able to get out, but Polar Bear Mike abducted back to death. In the rotation that maybe caught the Jade Dragons off guard was from the dual lane. So Netroid will snag a kill and get that Transcendent stacking.
Yeah, Genetics was not in range to ult Captain Twig there at the moment. The Crushing Wave, Pagon gets the last hit on that one, but what a terrible time for me to say they're always in the right spot as Twig just gets caught out there. But either way, the farm game is what we were referring to, obviously, how much gold the Camelot Kings are in the lead. They know how to play this map. They have the obelisk pretty much over any team in the league right now. They're getting that objective pretty consistently as Genetics probably waltzes over to pick it up just now. But making sure they're always there. And look at Sam already posting up for this Sonic Boom here. If Netroid comes to lane,
Netroid has beads. Genetics has Scarab's Blessing. Sanford Soccer has eyes for Netroid, and in goes Sam, waiting for the beads, but Netroid is just able to gallop away. But here comes PBM as well. Netroid, this entire time has been under threat. There's a Scarab's Blessing on the other side, but oh no, is it going to be 2 kills for the Dragons? Yes, it is. Scarab's Blessing comes off, but Sanford Soccer in traditional fashion, right down Main Street. And it's 2 kills for the Dragons.
I gotta say, Netroid probably could have just beads and ran towards tower, but wanted to try to fight after the fact with the Scarab's Blessing. Just a little bit of a misfortunate timing there, because the beads are still up, though. You live to see another day, but a duo kill, double kill in the duo lane, is not gonna be the best option. Fine OK, though, could be in some trouble here.
Uh-oh, Twig through the wall. Fine OK has Bat Out of Hell. So should be safety. Always difficult ganking Camazots, but the first charge of the Bat Out of Hell went back towards Captain Twig. Sanford Soccer is over here on the right side of the map as well. Not sure which ward he just walked over. It was a Jade Dragons ward, so Variety doesn't know Sanford Soccer is in behind here. There is no lurking in the waters, and the Mercury strikes pay dirt yet again. And what a difference a few minutes makes. Sanford Soccer is being invaded at level 2, and now suddenly he's affected 3 kills on the map over the last minute.
Such a great play style to watch. Obviously, right now, we haven't seen the Mercury too much in this season, at the very least, in Sanford Soccer. It makes you play around it, obviously going for the towers. Genetics swinging the miss on the abduct.
And Pagon will Crushing Wave out. So Grasp of Death, yeah, kind of keeps Mike in a certain area, but able to walk out and look for a stun. Big man Tings, no dice on that ultimate. And Sanford Soccer loves going with this style of build on the Mercury. Stone Cutting Sword, great for him early. And then looks like immediately into some level of crit. I feel like we've seen Rage in that spot, so wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being something like that for Sanford Soccer, especially if he's going to be this active early. And it is a Rage, as I will pause and watch Centaurus get a whole lot of nothing. If it ends up being a Rage for Sam, shows us that he wants to get active or remain active really early in this game.
Yeah, already could have 3 stacks on that Rage if he was able to finish it up first, but this time around, not going to be the choice. There's a little bit extra gold here to try to finish that one up, as I think Netroid realizes, you know, I really cannot push up past this little tower mark here in case that Mercury ult is coming back. The Sonic Boom is always going to be a looming threat in this duo lane. And it looks like Sanford Soccer will just continue farming, so going to be safe for a little while longer at least. And no team really is trying to pull anything just yet, but again, looking at that gold lead, despite the 4 kills that the Jade Dragons have acquired, still not quite in the lead.
No, Camelot King still in control of the gold, but it's always funny when there's a Mercury on the enemy team, specifically Sam. Let's be honest, it's Sam 90% of the time, and it is Rage for his second item. Always watching where the wards go down is always so funny. Like, Big Man Tings drops a ward just outside of Tier 1 tower range there, just dead center of the mid lane. So you get an idea that Sam could be over there. And don't be surprised if you see Genetics maybe even potentially slightly overextend to drop a ward between the Tier 1 and Tier 2 tower over on the dual lane side of the map. Anything to give information of all the potential gank paths for the Mercury is going to be a benefit here for the Camelot Kings. Over on the right, though, is where Sanford Soccer heads. Looks like the rest of the team will rotate over towards the Pyromancer as well. Needs to be careful. Now, those crits helping out. He's getting a whole lot of them for an unstacked Rage right now. And the Pyromancer burnt through. And the Jade Dragons will get closer to evening up that gold.
Yeah, someone might have to check Sam's computer. But it looks like they will be trying to chase this one down. The Pyromancer goes, but they're not going to give it up for free. But it looks like the Jade Dragons will retreat here. I can't talk about builds without mentioning what Polar Bear Mike has opted into here. I thought it was going to be that Gauntlet of Thieves, but goes for Mail of Renewal this time around. So not going for any sort of traditional support items. We see the Stone of Binding, you know, if you want to go for a little bit extra power early, but no auras for the squad right now. This is only for the healing, so a little bit different. We'll see if it pans out.
Does that change in your mind how Mike wants to play this pick? I mean, Cabrakan is going to do Cabrakan things anyway, right? Does Mail of Renewal shift up some of the minutia of this play style in your mind?
Yeah, I would say Mike wants to facilitate just as much as Sam right now, so just trying to say, hey, when we do find some success on the map, obviously it's going to work out for everyone, so just a little bit extra healing there. And I think this is the exact thing I would expect, though. Mike is going to be going in consistently as Netroid going to have to live underneath this tower.
Panda Cat, yes please, and that is all set up by Sanford Soccer, and his ult strikes again. Netroid had to use the beads this time. Polar Bear Mike sends a stun Genetics way. And Sanford Soccer was able to tank up that tower so effectively that Panda Cat could just walk right on in, drop the ultimate, and get the last bit of damage as well. And this is always the threat. I mean, it's so unique with Sanford Soccer. Lives by the unique picks, dies by the unique picks. You know, like Sam will play the standard assassins at the time, but never one to totally give up the gods that he just enjoys playing. Like if I see a Mercury locked in a draft, you could cover up the team name at the top, and I would just assume it's the Jade Dragons, because I'm not sure any other jungler in the league is playing this pick at the moment. And this time around, it's working for Sam. He's affected 4 out of the 5 kills. It's like Rage into another crit item after that. And so the Jade Dragons jungler keeping the pace going. It doesn't want to scrap with Captain Twig.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it wouldn't be a Deathbringer at this point, just trying to get as much crit as possible as Variety. Gonna look for a little bit of action here.
Whoa, Mike blinks in. Can't find the stun, but has the ultimate down. Captain Twig makes his way into the wall nonetheless. Now Polar Bear Mike being chunked as Variety plucks him back, and Captain Twig able to punish the over-aggression from Polar Bear Mike, the second death of the game, onto the Cabrakan. And that's the one. That's one where the Jade Dragons hovering around. I wouldn't say they started it, but Camelot Kings definitely finished it off. As Final K was present in that engagement, but into the Transcendence on the Camazots, need some time to stack that item up before full effective.
Yeah, it looks like there might be a purple buff invade into a Gold Fury pull, depending on how Camelot Kings are feeling. Pagon still has a lot of damage here, but he's frontlining.
That was a decent chunk damage onto Sanford Soccer. Has to dash away. Crushing wave doesn't matter. Not when Bluestone is ticking away. Netrioid won't even die for his troubles. Panicat uses the Aegis. So shrugs off all of the damage. Sanford Soccer still has Sonic Boom. Do the Camelot Kings immediately go back for the Gold Fury is the question. The answer is yes. Variety is also rotated over from solo lane. So Final K is just going to farm up the back of the jungle on the right side of the map. Polar Bear Mike closes the gap, but he'll be abducted at the pivotal moment. And the Gold Fury goes to the Camelot Kings, but now Sanford Soccer is in the back line. Has to dash away one by one. The Jade Dragons are walking into this. And it looks like Trelly one by one, they may end up dying off. I'm not sure Final K can make the big difference.
But he might have gotten Sam out, and that looks like he will. The chase is going to, oh, it's going to continue, so Sam.
He'll be fine.
He's going to have some juke shoes here.
Oh, no, I don't know. Depends on the pathing that either Sam takes or Big Man Tings takes. Maybe Sam at this point, yeah, just drop the speed buff. Variety blinks forward. Sam, I think might just end up, no, he's going to walk right into Big Man Tings, but dodges out the initial burst of damage, and Big Man Tings ends up grabbing the kill. I admire the effort, but Sanford Soccer falls nonetheless. So 2-2-2 now on this Mercury. And the Camelot Kings pull themselves right back into this game. Slight over-aggression from the Jade Dragons gets punished.
Yeah, and the rotation for Final K just a little bit too late, unfortunately. Wasn't able to make too much of that one. And I really think that just stems from Pagon's positioning. He was way too far up there, didn't expect the dash in from Twig. Even ults away, trying to close that gap, but Netroid, with the snipes, was able to make sure that the Hebo goes down. So now, probably have to play a little bit safer here as you're looking at your lane opposition. Big Man Tings, 2-0 right now, just ticked over to level 16. We mentioned that Hebo might have some problems into this Persephone just because of the range and the amount of poke that Persephone has. Right now, not the biggest deal, but still, as this game goes on, it's going to get harder and harder to close that gap.
Look at the absurd aggression that the Jade Dragons want to play. Even just looking at their relics, 4 blinks, all picked up. Fine, okay, Sam, Pagon, Mike, they've all got blink, and they all want to make use of it. So no Aegis or Pagon is the notable maybe holdout where we're detracting from how a mid laner might normally itemize into the relics. Pyromancer gets pulled by the Kings, no pushback from the Dragons. So another map objective over to the Camelot Kings. But an important one goes to Panda Cat. It's a full 5-man rotation to the right side of the map for the Camelot Kings. And as long as the Dragons are aware of the Fire Giant and don't let it go down quietly, Panda Cat could get some good value out of his split push.
Yeah, but it looks like BMT and, yeah, Twig is also going to be here.
Oh, wow. Panda Cat is tower diving. Captain Twig uses his dash as well. Big Man Tings, I was thinking in a great spot to punish, but in a moment like that, Big Man Tings doesn't know where Sam is, doesn't know where Mike is, doesn't know where most of the Dragons are. And so, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained, yes, but you're also realizing that you're potentially dropping a kill onto Panda Cat, but you also save your own life for sure. And so Big Man Tings nursing his lead at 203. Whereas Panda Cat very strong. Why is Panda Cat so confident in his potential of a 1v1 up against Captain Twig? Well, he's level 18, highest in the game, and he's 2-0-1, pretty far underway in a threatening-looking build.
Yeah, as the Camelot Kings have been increasing their map play, it looks like Panda Cat and Final K are just increasing their lane play right now. Both a level up right now. Actually, Panda Cat 2 levels up, so the not rotating and just farming did prove a little bit effective here, trying to get a lead. Now, will they use it? Will they rotate around and help their team? It looks like Panda Cat might be trying to, hugging in this corner here.
Yeah, considering it, Genetics has the Scarab's Blessing. Have seen limited use of it so far. Oh no, Polar Bear Mike, he's got to use the beads, but there's just too much here. The Kraken will fall to Captain Twig. The rest of the Jade Dragons rallying around their support here in the mid lane. As Variety is lurking in the waters, bursts forth. This is Pluck ready to go though. Who does it connect on? Looking for Panda Cat, who will dash away. It is half HP on the 4 remaining members of the Jade Dragons, and the Tier 1 tower will be backed away from. The Camelot Kings walk forward, grab a Tier 1 tower.
Yeah, still some key ultimates available, Sonic Boom and Crushing Wave, but Variety's gonna blink in.
Whoa, Panda Cat, perfect on the beads timing as Variety flies right by. And Sonic Boom right down mid, that's 3-man from Sanford Soccer. Pagon with the 3 is able to deal the last bit of damage to Variety, and Scarab's Blessing has already been used. Captain Twig still has beads, blink forward now from Final K. All of those 4 blinks finding value here. The Polar Bear Mike is walking back from base. Variety ends up being the one casualty You're trading that out for a couple towers in the mid lane. I think the Camelot Kings just fine.
Yeah, I was waiting to see if Pagon was going to use the ultimate there, but again, so hard to push into Persephone with no Aegis available. The only thing you'd have to use right now is your ult to try to immune this. It looks like they're going to sit the corner.
Pagon has Crushing Wave. He also has Soul Gem, a little burst of healing. How about this call for the Jade Dragons? Watch for Crushing Wave to confirm the objective here. Pagon has held on to it. Sanford Soccer is low, but Pagon is abducted, won't get a chance to use the ultimate. And Fire Giant has killed off Sanford Soccer as well. It is a disastrous call for now. But Final K remains in the fight. Fire Giant not fully reset. The Camelot Kings rotate in. 4-die for the Jade Dragons. And the Camelot Kings will get FG.
Yeah, you got to pre-ult there and at least try to get some damage out before you go down. Unfortunate for the mid laner of the Jade Dragons. That was the only play they had, was to save that Crushing Wave, get the Fire Giant, and try to get out. Panda Cat does make it out. So I guess there's one shining ray of hope there after a throw like that, but still, it's going to be very difficult. Captain Twig does not have the fire buff, but besides that, the Camelot Kings are in a commanding position now. You can go for Primal Fury. There's only 2 more Tier 2 towers that you really have to go through here, so they can really do whatever they want right now.
One person living after you lose FG is the slimmest of rays of hope, Trelly. Like, Panda Cat lives. I guess that's the only good thing here, and he does. But ultimately, Netroid now in a position where that XP is going to start to catch back up. Panda Cat has reached level 20 and just hasn't been able to do much with the lead that he had built up. The Camelot Kings continuing to prove that they are so aware around the map on these objective calls. And the Jade Dragons, that's an aggressive call, and it nearly pays off. They get the objective so low. But the Camelot Kings just rotated in more effectively. Sanford Soccer was tanking up the FG or stood in the pool, whatever it was. The Fire Giant was the one that killed him. And so he wasn't able to participate in the fight, really, and Pagon died with ult. So some fumbles there from the Jade Dragons have really put the Kings in a spot you would assume to feel comfortable closing out this game. So much time will Twig spend in the wall? Not much. As the Polymorph connects onto Captain Twig, but Captain Twig damages down Sanford Soccer, no shot.
Oh,
there's a 3-man initiation on a Captain Twig, and Twig plays it perfectly.
You really can't have Twig getting out there. I mean, they don't even get the Tier 1 tower for that. So much expended to try to get that pick. That's Merc ult, that's Cernos ult. You really have no option to team fight here, but it looks like the Camelot Kings, despite that, are still not going to go in for the Phoenix. They're just going to play it safe. They know they have this lead here, and they're not trying to rush this one down. Only 1 Tier 2 tower left on the map.
Yep.
And you have to realize that Twig didn't have the beads at the time, had to use the Aegis, but now does have, I mean, the Blink does have the beads now, so
right.
Twig's much safer at this point.
Oh, he is. Twig also hurts. Look at the way his build has gone. Standard as far as jungle goes, stand as far as Queen goes, but finishing up the Heartseeker. We'll put Captain Twig in a position to really find some burst damage on the Jade Dragons. Now, Sanford Soccer does hurt as well. 2 stacks on the Rage. So only a couple of assists since Sam has bought that item, but also a Deathbringer completed. And so if you're finding some opportunities for the Dragons back into this game, maybe it's got to be Sanford Soccer just blowing up a target with a big crit. Maybe Big Man Tings, Netroid, who's got Shell instead of Aegis for ID blinks forward. Won't get much on the Panda Cat except a smattering of damage taken in return. I think Sanford Soccer's got to be a big difference maker here. Pagon as well. That 1-2 punch between those two could flip a fight in an instant.
Yeah, we need to see Pagon get use out of this Crushing Wave. We have not since that first kill on a Twig.
Look at the damage charts. He's literally tied with Genetics. You don't see that all that often, but tied for last is Pagon. Need to climb up those damage charts in this team fight as Netroid gets some good damage with the Centaurus. Left side Phoenix now being sieged as Pagon forced to use the beads. And will end up backpedaling away. Gets a nice 800 damage off there to further separate himself.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mike is still not very tanky because of this build he's opted to go, so it's hard to front him. The Spirit Rope is certainly helping, but right now the Cabrakan sort of just tickling at the moment. CC bot, that's all he can really do. He takes too much damage as the mid Phoenix now is being looked at.
Yeah, it's always the awkward spot for Cabrakan when you're too squishy to do what you want to do. And Polar Bear Mike wants to be able to initiate. There's big damage from Sanford Soccer on the end of the Sonic Boom, and he's taken way too much from Captain Twig. Big Man Tings nearly clips Sam with the Grasp of Death, but won't end up confirming that kill. And the Camelot Kings are healthy. The mid lane Phoenix is not. Variety is polymorphed into the back line. Goes Final K, but he's blown up as well. There's so much burst damage from the Camelot Kings when anyone initiates. Sanford Soccer is regened, but his health finally reaches 0. And what a turn the Camelot Kings have made in this game. They will take the mid lane. Phoenix, looks like they'll turn their eyes towards right.
Yeah, Pagon still holding on to that blink and ult. I feel like that was the saving grace there, but maybe don't want to, at this point, rather lose the Phoenix than lose the game opportunity. But the Camelot Kings played that siege all but perfectly. No one fell. They were able to get 2 Phoenixes down, and that was a pretty early Fire Giant to be able to use all of that. So solid play by the Camelot Kings. Now FG spawning up soon, about 20 seconds here. And as you mentioned, it seems like PandaCat, despite having that massive lead, has also not been able to shred too much away here. So the Jade Dragons are going to have to find something massive here. I have to imagine they try to defend this Fire Giant and give it all they got, because right now the gold lead is just, it's pretty absurd.
Yeah, I mean, Netroid has fully caught back up, right? I mean, the one opportunity for the Jade Dragons on the left side of the map was PandaCat being so far ahead, but levels are now even, and you imagine gold feeling just fine. As about 10,000 in the lead are the Camelot Kings. Fire Giant started up by the Kings. I think the Jade Dragons positioning tells you all you need to know. We are going to buy our time. We're going to push these fire waves out as best as we can. And just give ourselves a little extra time under the right side Phoenix. Get these waves as pushed out as possible. Mike having a bit of a hard time clearing out that left side wave. Variety is completely alone here. Not sure the Jade Dragons realize that, but if Variety buys enough time, the rest of the team can rally in. This is just obnoxious. Variety gets the beads off of PandaCat. Variety is alone with 3 members of the Jade Dragons, and look at what the Kings are doing on right. They're pushing down the tier 2 tower. And Variety is dealing actual damage to Sam. Variety is like winning this fight a little bit. The Scepter striking out for some damage in here as well. And the siege now begins with Sanford Soccer being chased on the left side of the map by Variety.
Yeah, just so obnoxious. I don't think he was ever in any danger here. There's only 1 Phoenix left, and Genetics is plenty tanky to tank this on. They don't need the Sobek at this point. They can just walk in.
Yeah, finally, Sanford Soccer will get some reprieve from the eye of Variety. How about the backline damage? What happens there? A lot of that from Netroid, and Big Man Tings is able to capitalize. Polar Bear Mike deleted. Variety has eyes for Pagon, but Pagon will water carpet away the Camelot Kings. They've played the map so well here in this game, despite an early onslaught from Sanford Soccer in massive damage numbers. Look at those damage charts. That's all you need to know about the way that this game has gone. The burst for the Camelot Kings has been more effective than the burst for the Jade Dragons. One last chance, huge polymorph from PandaCat. But there's no damage to confirm any of these kills. Variety is knocked up by Pagon. Crushing Wave has already been used. You gotta get it done with your abilities, but the Titan will melt. The Camelot Kings walk in, and the Camelot Kings take game 1.
I mean, the map play that we mentioned was always superior there, but the team fight presence was just, it was just too much to deal with here, clearly. I mean, you saw some nice sonic booms, you know, you saw the ults going through, but they just couldn't follow up. As you mentioned, their health bars just never changed.
They didn't. That's like the, I was casting with you earlier, and it was, maybe it was, no, I was thinking of, was it Shinto who spread out the bees and like half of the health bars of all the dragons like suddenly melted down? This is another example of that, where Netroid on the Chiron just sends Centaurus right down Main Street, and suddenly all the squishies in the backline are just, they have no health on the Jade Dragons. The Dragons are able to play aggressively around Sanford Soccer early in this game, Trelly, but the Camelot Kings, a team that are so good at playing the map, so good at buying their time, and the scaling was just too effective, and the Camelot Kings, crisp and clean down the stretch, are able to take game number 1. Game number 2 between the Dragons and the Kings, coming up next.
Thought the grass was
And welcome back to the SMITE Pro League. Game number 1 between the Kings and the Dragons is all wrapped up, and it's the Camelot Kings coming out on top here in our first game of the set. And from minute 1, I mean, level 2, we're seeing invades into the top end of the jungle up against Sam for Sucker, Captain Twig, and Variety making sure to put some pressure on that right side of the map. The Dragons did manage to answer back a little bit early on, Mifflin, by throwing some pressure over to duo lane, but at the end, a lot of this macro play we talk about with the Kings is what nets them this massive win to start leading them to the victory.
It does. And the team fight presence, the 5-on-5 engagement of the Camelot Kings just felt a little bit more coherent. Namely, around the Jade Dragons draft, those last 2 selections, I believe it was the Cabrakan and the Mercury in the last 2 slots, just didn't feel like they fit very well with this draft. The Mercury wasn't quite able to leverage Sonic Boom in the laning phase very well, didn't have the greatest gank targets a couple of times. I feel like maybe he would be able to line it up, but a wall spawned by PBM made it a little bit difficult as well. And the Jade Dragons seem to have crumbled by that 15, 16-minute mark. That said, the Camelot Kings continue to do Camelot things, and that is farming the map very well, controlling the macro, grouping up as 5, and just dominating. Namely, gotta shout out Variety. That Sobek was gross. He is playing a Sobek in the solo lane, so I gotta give him the you know, a little bit of a hazing.
Bro, you're
you know,
playing that
yeah,
guy in
like,
solo?
Yeah, it's not like a cool alpha pick, but it definitely dominated, and he certainly was an alpha on the map. At one point, even like 1v3 up against the Jade Dragons around their own obelisk with that Fire Giant push, was able to stop 2 backs, forces Panda Cat in pure terror, just fear, to beads a pluck that nobody was around to follow up on, and was even winning out in the team fight afterward. This Sobek, man, was just dominant.
I mean, Variety put out some big numbers here for his team as far as the game was concerned. A 1, 2, and 4 slash line, if I'm not mistaken. He's gotten in this one out. Netro is putting out a lot of damage as this game continued to go through. I mean, earlier on, like I said, dual lane pressure was in favor of the Dragons at the very least. That's where they decided to throw Sam over to try and get some help out there. But Netro was able to fight back through it, even killed a Habwa mid crushing wave just by the help of that Bluestone Pendant, and that Crusher really popping in there for them. But a 3-0 for Big Man Tings in the mid lane, 3-2 out of Captain Twig in the jungle. And top damage here for Captain Twig on this cleanup. Though no surprise, we've been singing the praises of just how much damage this god can do. Though usually in solo lane where you're a little bit tankier and you can kind of spam these abilities a little bit more safely.
Yeah, Twig was maneuvering Cleana's passive very well, putting himself in what I would argue is out of position, but the fact that you can just phase into a wall means that he's almost never out of position, and Twig was distracting multiple members of the Jade Dragons, going to the wall, saving his Screech until he was there to get a larger AoE, multi-man silences, the ultimates were on point, the objective shot calling. It felt like the Cleana always had at least one Pierce the Veil available for Gold Fury, for Fire Giant, for Pyromancer. The Camelot Kings, they come to play, but the Jade Dragons keep it interesting throughout the early phases of this match. I think that this is one that could very easily go to 3.
Yeah, it kind of comes back down to the drafting phase, you know, when we were going back and forth between where these picks going to go. We'll jump into picks and bans game number 2 and still talk a little bit about there. I mean, you were talking about the Camelots maybe going to the mid lane would be a better matchup, allow Pagon to be able to farm a little bit more freely. Final K up against the Sobek. It's not often that you're probably ever going to really die to a Sobek in that solo lane anyway, so put something like that Habwa over there. We'll see if the Dragons change anything up here, though, in game number 2. Same bans, at the very least, to start things out, as far as all 3 are concerned. Artio, Thoth, and Erlong Shen, unchanging from that previous set.
Yeah, it seems like both teams came in with a game plan because the Camelot Kings execute those bans faster than I could have found those gods on the God Select screen. So, surely Scrim's working out for them. Khepri, though, going to be the first adjustment from the Jade Dragons. Going to limit genetics off of that pick and remove some of that layer of safety I think the Camelot Kings would love to have for an aggressive selection like Cleana. Again, we saw it in the jungle in the last game, but that does not detract from the fact that she is a very strong flex pick. Could head over into the solo, could stay in the jungle.
Yeah, that Khepri genetics in Season 8, a 75% win rate on that god, and it's been consistently banned away from him up until that. That's one of the first times that we get to see him bring that god out here in Season number 9. It's looked good. I believe he's got 100% win rate on the 2 games that he's gotten to play it thus far here in Season 9, though. It's going to be Umoja, the answer from the Dragons this time. Something that we expected them to bring out last game. We got all the way to 3rd pick. It was still open. They decided to leave that one open and then eventually have it banned out by the Kings, but they'll grab Umoja and Habwa here for the Dragons.
Yeah, Habwa's win rate tarnished slightly, but still incredibly high at 80%, and has some flex potential. Could go mid, could go jungle. Seems to be the name of the game in the SPL, is keeping your opposition guessing with your first couple of lock-ins, and Habwa can certainly do that. Double water lock-in for the Jade Dragon, so, you know, type advantage, I suppose. We won't see an Agni for the Camelot Kings. That's a joke. I'm joking. Insert laugh.
No, I was waiting like for the comparison with Kleena, but you threw the Agni right away, so not going to pick at least the Fire God out here.
Yeah, but you explained the joke. You didn't laugh at it. Thanks,
There you
J-Mac.
go.
I appreciate it.
I got the Ghost type Kleena on the other side. Would Kleena be a double type? Would she be a dual type, or would she just be pure Ghost?
Bro, I'm going to keep it a buck with you. I haven't played Pokemon in so long. That
okay,
was as far as I go.
It's okay. They've only added one new type ever since like they introduced the Dark type in Gen 2, and then it wasn't until Gen 6 that we got like Fairy types. So that was the last time that any new typing was thrown out here.
Yeah, Kleena
but
would be a fairy, I suppose.
would she be a fairy?
I don't know, like a ghost.
Ghost fairy. That'd be an interesting type to see out here. Bacchus, though, the lock-in for the Camelot Kings, coming back to SMITE away from the world of Pokemon just for a moment there, and then a Persephone to round that one out. So still a very aggressive Guardian over into that dual lane for the King, something that's a little bit of a different look than the Khepri, typically a much more defensive in nature.
Yeah, Bacchus is going to be much more aggressive, the ability to get involved early on, and matched up with Persephone's engage potential with Grasp with Death, and Kleena's ability to just shred HP bars from level 5 onward will suit the Camelot Kings very well. Decent objective potential, but more so about space control. The Jade Dragons, locked in. I mean, we saw Final K practicing it a little bit earlier. I still think that is more than likely going to Panda Cat in the duo lane.
What if he does just throw it in solo lane?
Then I feel bad for saying it. I feel bad for
like
saying it out loud, you know, because then, you know, what if the Kings heard me?
Well, maybe they did. Probably didn't, though, as we jump into the next round of bans. Jade Dragons do not want to deal with Variety's Sobek. They're going to take that one away right away here. We did see a Bellona ban by the Jade Dragons in the previous game as well, so that could be another answer to try and keep Variety down. But now that you got this jungle, maybe even the solo, so maybe this Sobek is completely off to the wayside anyways here. Maybe it is going to be this Kleena going over to the solo lane. But we do know as Bacchus, Persephone, the more likely spots that they'll be locked in here. Jade Dragon still with a couple of options to themselves. Do need a solo laner. Do need either a mid or maybe a hunter, depending where the Lure is going, or maybe a jungle, depending where the Habwa is going. It's still unknown for the Jade Dragons lineup just thus far.
Which will make it very difficult for the Camelot Kings to figure out where they want to allocate this last ban slot. I would argue that the potential of Kleena going to the solo lane is pretty high here for the Camelot Kings, because right now the Kings are lacking in consistent beads burning and consistent engage. You can engage with Grasp of Death. You can have a Bacchus belly flop his way into a fight. But generally, Grasp of Death will be the beads burner. You're not really using beads for the flop because it's pretty hard to react. But if you are, that is one way, but it's generally going to be single target. And we know for a fact that the Camelot Kings, and specifically Ben, Captain Twig, has got the ability to play Hunbots. So if you flex this Kleena into solo and have a Hunbots lock-in, you've got two targets that are very susceptible to Fear No Evil already from the Jade Dragons. Umoja and Ull don't have great answers to that ability. Will likely be burning those beads consistently. And if Habwa does not have beads available, how do you beat Habwa? You kill him before he crushing waves. And that's exactly what you can do with a Fear No Evil.
Yeah, Hunbot's still up there. Also interesting to note, Daji is still available. That's been a god that's been making her way into the top bans of a lot of teams throughout the entirety of the first 2 weeks, but has gone unnoticed, at least here in game number 1. Now game number 2, we're still peeking through with no sign of life on that pick. Jade Dragons have a critical pick here, and maybe it'll give us a little bit of insight as to where a couple of these picks are going here, where the Camelot Kings will be able to make a nice counter pick up against that one. But, I mean, just with this Habwa Ullr out here, and then changing up to the Umoja from the Kabrak, and are you liking this Jade Dragons draft just a little bit more than from game 1?
I think getting the Umoja early on fits Mike's play style very well. You've got a much more aggressive composition immediately with the Ull matched up with it. King Arthur likely headed for the solo lane. Another aggressive selection, so side lanes, one place that Jade Dragons would very much like to play through. With King Arthur locked in, this does make me think Habwa is likely slated for the jungle, but I've been saying that, and Pagon's been playing it, so we'll hedge our bets once we see the rest of the draft. The Camelot Kings, on the other hand, I think, come away with a already draft that is very potent. I'm really excited to see where these last 2 picks go.
So if we do see another god, instead of the Kleena going over to Captain Twig, and this Kleena now jumping itself over into the solo lane. I mean, Mifflin, how do you kind of feel about that matchup of Kleena versus King Arthur? Is there any real advantage between those two early on?
Well, you don't get to Beyblade as King Arthur. You channel out that
True.
ability. You silence it pretty
That's no fun.
consistently. That said, King Arthur's got some decent answers to Kleena on her own right. The cripple to deal with the dash. You're not generally able to fully channel that ultimate once King Arthur has his passive fully stacked up. He gets a CC immune dash available to himself. So it's not a lane that one is overly favored in. If anything, I'd say that Kleena is going to spend the majority of the time in lane just proxying waves, using Pierce the Veil, clear wave, try and steal back camp, something like that. But now I think it is Kleena in the jungle, with Jing Shen in the solo lane, Chiron in the duo with Bacchus and Persephone holding it down in mid. And I'm in a unique position, J-Mac. I used to play in console Smite, and there was a player named Derek Worst, IGN Dworst. And I would argue in 100 games, he would play Jing Shen solo 80 times. So I have had the pleasure of playing with Jing Shen in solo lane very often. Let me tell you what that god does.
What does he do?
Nothing. I begged that man not to play that pick because it does not win 2v2s. It does not win 1v1s. What it does do is survive and eventually become a support. It's going to blink in. It's going to washing machine ultimate. It's going to burn beads, and it's something that I had called for the Camelot Kings draft. Another consistent beads burning tool. It fits into that slot, but it does not hold its own against very many picks, and I think that King Arthur very much will bully this Jing Shen. Benefit of the Jing Shen being that his passive gives you nearly infinite HP, because I believe it's like 50 or 60 HP 5 when fully stacked up, which just adds up very quickly, especially with like a Chalice of Healing or something along those lines. So worry not for the King's Soul Laner. He will not die.
End statement.
Yeah, I'm done.
There we go. Jingwei, the final pickup here for the Jade Dragons. This maybe gives us a little bit of light here as to where these picks might be lining out. Hobblot to the jungle, Uller mid, and Jingwei over for Panda Cat. Is what I would like to say, but I'm still not 100% sold in all honesty here.
It's got to be Ul mid now.
It has to be the Uller mid, but there's just something in the back of my mind when we talk about these former SCC players like Benny and Pagon. You just don't know what's going through their head. You don't know if Pagon's going, you know what? Jingwei sounds pretty good here.
Surely not.
Hopefully not.
I can't come up with a single merit to Jingwei mid.
You can get to your wave a little bit faster with her passive in mid than you can in duo.
I suppose. You've got me beat.
That's my one that I've got there for you, Mifflin. And with how many games that we've seen out of Panda Cat with Uller, wouldn't be surprised if that was something here, but more 0%. Like...
We've seen Panda Cat play Jingwei this year.
We have seen Panda Cat play Jingwei this year and in the past as well. So most likely here going to be that Jingwei going over now with the Yemoja into the duo lane. A lot of control in that duo lane, to say the very least. Yemoja with quite a bit of CC in her own right. The knockup from Jingwei is going to be good. But mostly just a ton of safety. It's just such an annoying lane to try and gank.
It is. You're not killing them. Jingwei very safe with the airstrike. One of the OG safe hunter selections. But there is an interesting mechanic in Smite in that there is one form of CC that is undr'able. DR being diminishing returns. If you stun someone twice, the second stun, even if it's the exact same ability, will be for a shorter duration. Knockups are not affected by that. So if Yemoja stun, then we see a knockup, that is going to be a full duration knockup regardless, which will make Jingwei's CC chain very potent.
Yeah, Jingwei, Yemoja in that duo lane here for the Jade Dragons. Going to be annoying to deal with, going to be annoying to get to. Like you said, almost impossible to kill between the healing and the shields that Yemoja will have, the innate safety that Jingwei also just has in her kit. If you do manage to find a knockup on her, she's gone. She'll fly herself away, especially from a belly flop on something like a Bacchus out here.
Or a Xing Chen ult.
Or a Xing Chen ult here. Or, no, that's about the only two that we got here.
Chiron.
Can you get... Is the knockup that far on knockup that high on the giddy up?
It's a knockup. You could definitely a wheelish ult it so Jingwei can dash it.
That is a good point here. We'll see if the Camelot Kings can close this one out in 2, or are the Jade Dragons going to take us to game number 3? Let's jump right in and find out.
A bounce back time for the Jade Dragons after the Camelot Kings look consistent in game number 1, and I have my eyes initially on the solo lane Trelly. And though I don't know if we'll keep our eyes there for very long up until rotation time. Xing Chen up against King Arthur. Not a matchup I expected coming into this week, to be honest, but the Camelot Kings see some merit in keeping variety on these Guardian picks.
Yeah, it seems like Variety just wants to survive through the lane phase. As Mifflin said, you know, the benefit of this pick is it's very safe and has lots of sustain, but there's not too much kill potential. It's just you have the CC, and you can really deal with hunters, which, fortunately for Variety, the Jade Dragons have 2 of. The one, the Furious Roar, just nerfs auto attack damage essentially. So if you hit that on both of these hunters, they're gonna have a rough time. So I think Variety has the right idea, but it will make for a more boring laning phase, no doubt. I think Fine OK was trying to brawl out with the Bluestone start.
Hey.
I don't think Variety's gonna be meeting him halfway.
Hey, maybe Fine OK can still find his moments to strike. We've mentioned a little bit the Jingwei over in the dual lane. That means Pagon will be piloting this. Ooh, or Fine OK is brawling early, but losing the brawl to Captain Twig and Variety, despite having Sanford Soccer there as well. So Habwa remains in the Jade Dragons lineup, but this time for Sanford Soccer. Pagon on the Uller out of mid. And the flexibility of Pagon as a mid laner continues to show here. You know, we see assassins we see some mages that are more standard. Now you get Uller mid. And on a team with Pandacat, if you're going to be the one taking Uller and taking it away from Pandacat in theory, you better be pretty good at it. And I think Pagon has shown us that he has the flexibility to be able to play a pick like this.
Yeah, I'd say Pagon was probably tired of getting bullied last game. You know, Uller, one of the characters that doesn't really want to run away, just wants to buckle down and fight, throw the axe, try to get as much poke off as possible. Very different play style from the Hebo we saw last game. So now Sanford Soccer's going to take it, and we'll see if Pagon's able to find these axes early game. Twig trying to step up these mid camps. Axe a little bit off the mark.
Yep, misses his stun. Means Twig will go right on through the wall. And now the play style for Sam, though Mike has to use the beat. Stun is in, and Netrioid has got the last bit of damage. And that is just a rare miss from Mike. Over in the duo lane, overextend. Genetic has Belch. Mike's beads are down. Netrioid is able to capitalize, and rough start to the Jade Dragons duo.
Yeah, I will say their duo lane really was not meant to get pressure here. As we mentioned, this Jingwei, sort of just safe. Wants to sit back, wants to farm effectively until you can get some crit online, that sort of thing. But Mike was just trying to save some gold. He was like, you know, there's a lot of minions going under this tower.
Yeah,
I would like to save some last hits if possible, and that's not going to be the case. But now we're seeing Genetics look at this purple buff, and there could be an invade.
Yeah, aggression from Genetics still on the left side. As Sanford Soccer will mirror over on the blue buff, helps Final K rather pick that one up. In behind, or they invade, excuse me. They walked at that thing so confidently, I thought it was their own blue buff. No, it was Variety's blue buff that just gets swiftly taken away by Final K and Sanford Soccer. And that may be no surprise there, right? I mean, with the way that this lane is constructed.
But now,
it's gonna be hard for Variety to find pressure, but Sanford Soccer gets the knockup and the damage onto Captain Twig. And purple, or blue buff rather, gets dropped by the Jade Dragons, but now Sanford Soccer wants more. Sanford Soccer and Final K want to fight. Captain Twig knocked to the side. Can Final K chase down the jungler? It's a big silence out. And Final K with the Bluestone tick is able to get the last bit of damage, but now Variety, an opportunity to turn around a kill. One more auto will do it. Variety ends up falling as well. And so a 2-for-1 trade for the Jade Dragons. And they grab both blue buffs.
Oh, but Netroid goes to 5 here.
Oh, Centaurus could do it as well. Yes, it will. And so the Camelot Kings, another kill on the left side of the map. This time, Pandacat goes down. We're going to get full value out of that Jingwei passive now. Need to get back to lane as quick as possible. And the Camelot Kings, they are rolling on one side of the map and maybe going even on the other.
Yeah, I mean, at least you're getting a kill onto the Hebo. Late game could not come sooner for the jungle of the Jade Dragons. But on the flip side, Netroid has just been going in consistently. Obviously, when you have Genetics that's constantly setting up, flopping in, everyone is under tower at the moment, but you have so much range on this Chiron. So Netroid pretty much chilling in this lane right now. 2-0.
Yeah.
Hasn't even back, so hasn't got a chance to buy that Transcendent Jet, I imagine. Pretty close to the gold amount for it because you've been farming pretty well over here. So Pandacat's not going to be able to play the game for quite some time in this duel.
Yeah, already level 6 to level 4 for Netrioid over Pandacat. Big man Tings has to dash away. Should be a kill here, and it sure is. Pagon able to jump in, but Captain Twig, he's got damage as well, and the last tick connects. Captain Twig, though, takes the crushing wave, dodges out the knockup. Can he turn it around? No, Sam reads the water hands. And the Habwa off to a great start here. 2-0-2 for Sanford Soccer. These two teams, they love a scrap. We have 8 kills in 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, they are swinging. That was just a brawl over some mid camps in the middle lane. And we're seeing lots of deaths at the moment. Already 8 kills have been gone, 4 for each side at the moment. But Camelot Kings getting a little bit better on that gold lead, but it's relatively even at the moment, as we said. Final K has a small lead in right, whereas Netroid has a small lead in left. So that's sort of the way of the map right now, as we see Genetics putting some stock into that obelisk once again, trying to steal some of those offerings away, but gonna have to back up here.
What a difference for Pagon and Sam for Soccer both. I mean, Sam had a great start to game 1 on that Mercury, slowed down a bit as the game went on, felt like he was just ulting in and immediately dying. Pagon had a forgettable game on the Habois basically all game long. Now Pagon's been effective in turning a couple of kills, and Sam for Soccer has been on time to all of the major engagements outside of Genetics and Netroid just winning duo lane up to this point. And so Habois has already seen more effectiveness in game 2 than it ever really saw in game number 1. And Sam for Soccer is making it look good. Gets the do more, be able to rotate around the map a little bit better off. Netroid goes back, finishes up the Transcendence. We're going to have a stacking battle over here in the duo lane. We're farming up anyway. But this is obnoxious. Panda Cat is going to have to wait a little bit longer for some of those stacks to roll through, because Genetics and Netroid have the zone.
Yeah, don't worry. Mike's on the way. Mike's saying, I'll help you out, man. I'll make sure that wave is eventually going to push up here. But I don't think that we're going to see this lane cleared too easily until maybe a gank happens or Sam for Soccer comes out to help out. But at least Panda Cat does have the dev gauntlets now, so he's going to continue stacking, as you mentioned. Netroid also going for Transcendence, so both just trying to clear the wave at the moment. Just Netroid doing a lot more damage. So can sort of stand there and say, hey, you can't post up, or I'm going to hit you with this ult for pretty much, I'd say 60% of your HP right now. We hit every shot, so you got to watch out if you are Panda Cat. It looks like Genetics is looping around here.
Yes, Genetics going to find the initiation on the Panda Cat, who has Airstrike, who has beads. And so, you know, I think in reality, I mean, we laugh about it, but like, the Camelot Kings struck and killed Panda Cat. As Sam for Soccer, throw him underneath the tower, and the last tower shot gets it. Now Final K trying to run down the last bit of damage here, has ultimate, and will swipe down a kill onto Variety. So 1-for-1 trade over in solo. How about over here in mid, though? Pagon has already died. Polar Bear Mike gunned down by Captain Twig. And the Camelot Kings are insatiable. Variety turns a big gank from Sam for Soccer around for a kill over on right. And then it's a 2-for-none in mid for the Camelot Kings.
Yeah, you just know Sam for Soccer was mashing that 4-key, trying to get the ult off before he got picked up by the dishwasher. And then Variety just jumps over it. He knows it's coming and is able to juke it out, trading that kill. I'm sure Final K is happy with the kill, but probably didn't want to lose Sam in the process. And then Netroid just makes a huge rotation over to mid. They're able to find both. So Panda Cat's probably happy that the aggression ceased on him for a bit, but now he looks over. And not only is his jungle and mid dead, but also Mike finds another death as well. Only level 6 right now for the Umoja.
And we figured, and we were talking about prior to all the fights breaking out, was that, I mean, in reality, the Camelot Kings probably struck and killed Panda Cat, like, during the only window where you're going to have any sort of easy kills on this Jingwei, like with Airstrike and beads and how difficult it is to kill off a Jingwei at that point. So Panda Cat should, I say should heavily, be safe over here in this lane now. But, you know, anything can happen if you have the range and the initiation. Sam for Soccer continuing this emphasis on variety, which, you know, I guess keeping the Xing Chen behind is nice, but Variety is just, he's turned around the kills in the last couple of initiations, so it hasn't been super successful for the Jade Dragons over on right. The gold lead isn't absurd, but 1,000 or so for the Camelot Kings feels just fine. I think Variety being able to survive maybe I undercut it a little bit, 1.7K or so, missed about 8 or so hundred gold. Panda Cat will have to airstrike away. Variety just surviving this lane feels good, but now he's maybe got an opportunity for another kill. Final K has already used his ultimate. Crushing away from Sam for Soccer is not the execute, but Final K has got the range. Variety has already used Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, and that's what the Dragons have been looking for. A clean gank, a clean kill, and get out.
Yeah, that is what they're looking for, but I gotta be honest, I don't think Twig has to be there right now. Variety able to trade last time the gank came through his Genetics. Just gonna get very aggressive here, trying to confirm this. Sam for Soccer did find the re-gank onto Variety. So I guess I'm gonna eat my words before I even say them. I was gonna say Variety's fine in this lane, and that Twig, the only reason that there was a kill there is because Twig showed up, this squishy target, this Kleena, tried to fight with them. But on the other side, sometimes, you know, he does a lot of damage. And it looks like Sam for Soccer was able to do the gank, re-gank strat, and Variety's going to head back. Now, trying to get Final K ahead is the name of the game.
Genetics uses his second Intoxicate in a row on the red buff. This time, though, unable to secure it. Was successful last time. And there's chaos is happening all over the map. I mean, we got reganks happening on right at the same time that the Camelot Kings are invading the purple buff. It's a knockup from Sanford Soccer. If he had Crushing Wave, that's one dead Captain Twig. Still might be, as Twig has to go through the wall. Genetics now being whittled away. Sanford Soccer 3/4 of the way to his ultimate. Crushing Wave, he needed it. It was so close to a couple of kills here for the Jade Dragons. And now Variety walks into the Jade Dragons. Will have to double jump his way away, except the second one goes back in. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel burns the beads off Pagon. But now Variety in a bad spot. Pagon has got the damage, and Genetics stuck around. Panda Cat dashes through, and the Camelot Kings, one by one, lose their health bars.
This time, Netroid did not opt to make the rotation, but Panda Cat came over and said, I'm going to make the rotation this time. Netroid is going to get some free farm over here on the left side, but crazy that Panda Cat, given how far behind he was able to make that rotation and find a kill.
Oh, Variety now falls to 2 and 4, so the second death in the last couple of minutes. We can now look back at exactly what happened just a moment ago. I imagine the regank from Sanford Soccer a minute or two ago wasn't all that flashy of a moment, right? Where you were able just to rotate back in with your cooldowns, find the last bit of damage onto Variety, end up knocking down the Xing Chen one more time. And so, I guess it wasn't even all that. I thought he had wrapped all the way. Okay, so maybe he still does. Oh, he just wraps around the tower. I thought Sanford Soccer ended up going around the blue buff. Actually very close from Variety. But another kill for Sanford Soccer, and that is how Variety got his third death of the game. Fourth death of the game coming just a moment ago. Camelot Kings, though, not dissuaded. Still feeling pretty even in gold. So Gold Fury stands. And that massive XP swing, Trelly, is really where you're going to find the difference in this game.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if Genetics goes 3 for 3 on Intoxicates on buffs. I think once you see, no, he's still trying to go for this. I'm amazed. He's going to keep eating so much damage.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Yeah, finally going to back off there. Let the red buff go the way of the Jade Dragons. The last one did as well, but still, the steal potential just not there. Looking at Pagon, opting to go for the hi-rez Lament this time around. Still going to have some nice ability damage with that stacked up Transcendence, but the extra auto attack after the fact is going to be some nice damage if, you know, Captain Twig, for example, is able to get to him. Right now, not too much tank damage. You do have 10% penetration since the hi-rez Lament buff, but really I think Pagon's going to want to go for those squishy targets right now.
Oh my goodness, I didn't realize the solo lane gap had grown to quite where it is, and that's where all of that XP differential that you just saw, it feels like it all is laying over in the solo lane. 2 levels for Final K, was 3 just a second ago. No surprise when Variety has been killed off a couple of times in the last couple of minutes. That's left Final K in range to simply just farm things up. And when Sanford Soccer's got a little flat pen online, we'll do more power there as well. And Sam has put a lot of emphasis on the right side of the map. No surprise that Final K has been able to pull a bit of a lead here. 3-1-2 for the King Arthur. And one of like 2 guys who's maybe playing this King Arthur right now is Final K. And showing that it still has its viability. Loves building sovereignty on this pick. Another instance of it here in this game. I'm excited come team fight time to see what Final's able to do.
Yeah, I gotta say, I thought, as we see a Grasping Death come out, it's gonna be off the mark here.
Yeah, it'll be cleared. Captain Twig, though, sends some damage Mike's way. And Big Man Tings, I admire the thought, but comes up just short.
Yeah, I think just trying to defend the tower there was Tings. But, yeah, I think the Sov, I thought really was when you had a Fizz jungler and a Fizz opponent. It was a nice little ability, but I guess Final K just values that HP 5.
Right.
You know, there used to be a Stone of Gaia build that was very popular in King Arthur. Not really in the meta right now. Still wanting a little bit of regen. This time, though, the tower will go down. Big Man Tings does not have the ultimate for this one, but it looks like the Jade Dragons are grouping up around this Gold Fury here.
Look at this initial collapse all around the Gold Fury. Go the Jade Dragons. Captain Twig needs a whole mountain of damage. Lives, but the Centaurus from Netroid is huge and up in the air. He's able to get the detonate damage as well. Genetics dodging out a whole lot as Netroid will finally be taken down by Polar Bear Mike. Panda Cat's got another as well. Big Man Tings at full HP, but doesn't have his ultimate. Will have to backpedal. Ends up being a 2 versus 1. The Camelot Kings duo lane falls. But so does Sanford Soccer out of the jungle from Jade Dragons.
Yeah, Final K will TP back in here, so the Gold Fury certainly still on the cards, but it looks like not going to be the option. Even though you have the emoji heals, looks like the Jade Dragons recognize that there is still a lot of farm to be had on the map. Panda Cat's going to clear up a Laven left. Final K is going to try to find some mids wherever he can. Just try to deny as much farm as you can from the Camelot Kings. Because, of course, the Gold Fury is a nice neutral objective, but the invades are, I think, what's really going to start adding up here because the Camelot Kings, they try to farm as much as possible. So shutting that down early before you even go for the Gold Fury, probably a smart idea here.
It's the Jade Dragons that has been feared by teams in the league over the last few years, but has been hit or miss, has been hard to find consistency. The early game, maybe not what the Jade Dragons had dreamed of. They fought their way back in admirably, but obviously not far enough ahead to immediately pull out this Gold Fury. When you start getting to 16, 17, 18 minutes, when the shred is really online, there's chin size for both of these ADCs, there's penetration there for the necessary junglers and mid laners. The objective is going to go so quickly. You've got to, if you want to fight for it, you almost have to permanently have a small team of folks right on that side of the jungle to try to contest this. Pyromancer's going to respawn shortly. I wonder if that's when you see a big separator. Maybe one of the two teams says, well, we don't really feel like going for Gold Fury. Instead, we'll split over for Pyro. But I think both teams would like the big one over here on this side of the map, get the Gold Fury, and spike a nice gold lead.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that Netroid does have this kin size build because given how much his ult did to Sam for Soccer last fight, I really thought he was itemizing into like full ability damage. Crazy amounts of just penetration there, so just a lot. I mean, I'm really just surprised because, you know, Sam for Soccer is going into defense now. He's got Mantle of Discord, obviously, but no Aegis available, so you're going to be eating the full brunt of these Masterful shots and Centaur shots, so it's going to be a little bit annoying here. The Jade Dragons are able to pull this, though.
Yep, they will group up around the Gold Fury, and they will do it quickly. Watch out. Around behind is Captain Twig. Panda Cat being melted through, but Airstrike, defensive as always, will keep Panda Cat on the map. The Camelot Kings actually take the Gold Fury until the fight after the fact needs to be won by the Jade Dragons, but anything but is happening on the map. The Camelot Kings sneak that one away after the Jade Dragons had started it up. Pagon and Sam for Soccer down to half HP. The Jade Dragons, they start up the objective, but fall just short of the secure.
Yeah, given how much confirmed the Jade Dragons had there, given the crushing wave, you had the Uller burst. There's a few different things you could have went for. Unfortunately, Captain Twig is able to steal that one away. But interesting to note, Genetics did go for that corrupted blink, so trying to go for some...
Aw, man.
Yeah, he's trying to go for some sort of attack speed slow. He doesn't really want the SpongeBob blink, as we mentioned a few times. He's going to just be really annoying, and he blinks into that Gold Fury, probably disoriented them a little bit. They weren't able to confirm that one.
Yeah, man, between Pagon and Panda Cat, that's just going to be so helpful in mitigating some of their pressure in the fight. At least the Camelot Kings do end up taking the Pyromancer as well. What exactly happens here? I mean, that's simple for Captain Twig. You drop a charge of your ultimate in that direction, and you coin flip it. But you know, Mifflin always calls it a weighted coin, and I think you pointed out there, Trelly. That should be a Gold Fury that, you know, if the crushing wave is timed effectively, should confirm the objective. But the Camelot Kings put their pressure out at the right moment. Things get a little chaotic. And so a small moment that could make a big difference for the Camelot Kings is some gold trickles back into their pockets. Contagion picked up for Genetics here as well. And so a strong item against some of what the Jade Dragons are going to be bringing to the table as far as healing goes. When there's a Yemoja, you know, there's always enough healing just through a Yemoja. You have to think a little bit about how you want to itemize anti-heal against it. Brawler's Beat Stick plus Contagion feels like a pretty good start.
Yeah, and especially because Genetics just has the Belch with the built-in anti-heal as is. So anytime Genetics is just blinking in and burping, it's pretty much full anti-heal. So Polar Bear Mike is going to have to play around that, just given the fact that there's not going to be too much healing whenever this Bacchus is around. As we mentioned, though, the gold is starting to trickle down. The Camelot Kings, we're seeing some leads here. Obviously, Big Man Ting's level 19 over Pagon right now. Trying to just farm up, get to that level 20 point. That's the next big power spike for these carries right now. They want to try to upgrade these starter items. The biggest disparity right now still in that solo lane, though. Variety just a little bit behind. Besides that, every one of the carries of the Camelot Kings are sitting just fine.
Yeah, look at what Big Man Tings has now in his build. He's doing all right. He's got Divine Ruin and Deso, and then Soul Reaver and Obshard for a little percent penetration there as well. And so the burst, you know, is talked about with Sam for Soccer out of the jungle, who's got Doom Orb, Divine Ruin, and Mantle of Discord. But you look at the burst potential of what Big Man Tings can do. You know, middle of the damage charts right now. And you know, you always dream of a 5-man grasp of death, things like that. But as these fights start to transition from the lanes into the jungles, you'd imagine that's when Big Man Tings, especially with the way that his build has gone, should be able to hit a spike of. Mifflin described the difference between effectiveness and efficacy to me the other day. When you're discussing the potential for something, I think it's efficacy. So there should be a spike of efficacy for Big Man Tings in this build once you're fighting in these jungles. The Grasp of Death maybe specifically able to get some value.
Yeah, it looks like, again, just prioritizing that anti-heal, making sure to get the Ankh online, trying to say this Yamoja
I don't see that all that
is
often.
doing a little bit too much here. But yeah, the
Heroic
shielded teleport. The heroic teleport is the real name for it. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, Variety is not going to be teleporting as much as Fine OK, but a little bit extra when he gets there. That is the idea behind that relic.
Yep. And Variety might need some help, right, with the way that his game has gone. He is at 2-4. Since dying those last couple of times, haven't seen much more out of the Xingqian. Both teams make their way on over to the right side of the map. The Primal Fury will be back up in about 45 seconds or so. But neither team will want to give up the fire. You know, Pyromancer's one thing. You're not going to quietly give up the FG, though. So both teams are going to be fully stocked over here on the right side of the map. You got to watch out for those range stuns from Mike. The blink initiations from Variety could also be impactful. But 5 sets of beads. And how about this? All 5 members of the Jade Dragons rallied around as Variety has found the back line. But immediately the front line is melted, and from over the wall, Pagon knocks down one. Sanford Soccer wraps the corner and grabs the other. Polar Bear Mike separated out that fight so effectively with the River's Rebuke, and the initiation results in nothing. And the Jade Dragons likely grab themselves a fire.
Yeah, Genetics found a huge Blink Intoxicate, but it's just vastly ineffective when it's coming from a level 13 Bacchus. I mean, the CC is there, but you're not doing too much damage. And as you said, Mike was able to split up that fight super well, and Pagon gets the finish over the wall to make sure they clean up at least one of those kills. And then, of course, Twig's able to find just a little bit later. But the siege is still continuing here. They have the tier 2 tower. They recognize that it's going to be a 5v4 for a little bit longer, and they're going for Phoenix.
They are. Yeah, decent death timer on Captain Twig here. This is where you got to be careful. If you're the Camelot Kings, you can't suffer many deaths right now. The staggered deaths will kill you. But Genetics again into the backline, another massive Intoxicate, and then a big stun to follow as well. But the Jade Dragons will put down the Bacchus, the right side Phoenix. I think you just got to give this one up at this point if you're the Camelot Kings. And there were huge damage numbers from Netroid on the back end of that fight as well. And another initiation from Genetics looks good. But the Camelot Kings just didn't have the numbers, didn't have the damage to make the Jade Dragons think twice.
Yeah, Tings and Netroid did not have the ult available, and obviously Genetics has 2 items right now. He can't get effective when he doesn't live through these CC chains. Of course, he's getting these big ults in the backline, and it's working out quite well, but you're just not able to live through the fights
good,
right now. Yeah, it looks great, but you can't do everything yourself, of course, and if Netroid had ult there, or if Big Man Tings had ult there, maybe there was some follow-up. Unfortunately, you only lose 1 Phoenix, so obviously you still have the chance to defend here. It looks like Twig might be looking for an invade. I was going to say, if Sanford Soccer spots this out, we could see a little brawl here, but it looks like it's just going to be some stealing away of camps.
Yeah, Twig has Aegis, and so maybe at this moment and in future moments, if there is a 1v1 between the junglers, it relies on Twig's reaction time with the Aegis and mitigating that crushing wave from Sanford Soccer, but haven't seen the 1v1s between those two just yet. Calamitous Rod of Tahuti now for Sanford Soccer, and so burst damage, yes please, but increase it a little bit with the meteor dropping down after a second or so for a little further burst damage. And so Sanford Soccer is in a strong spot here. And Pagon gets a big payday on the end of that fight as well, completes some important items for himself with the Heart Seeker down at the end of that build. And so really both mid laners, you know, Trilly, now at a point where I already harped on Big Man Tings and what the build looks like and how strong this Persephone is right now. Pagon as well. Can't ignore the damage that this Ullr is going to output.
Yeah, with the Bluestone Brooch as well. Any one of these Hail of Arrows could be pretty much half-healthing a carry. Good thing that one missed, Netroid.
That's a decent range.
A
My
skillful
goodness.
juke, yeah. It could have been pretty deadly there, but the mid-tier 2 still does stand tall. As Sanford Soccer, actually, he's backing here. No, he is going to cancel that back, trying to get that tower. You only have 1 Phoenix down in arguably the worst one to have. That right Phoenix is going to be pretty easy to defend if you are up by FG right now, so looks like they will just be going for that tier 2 tower, and then the call seems to be to back off here, just for a little bit longer.
Jade Dragons have a minute left on this FG buff. type of deal where you can give it one concerted push as Mike sends some minions on back, trying to group them up. I think the way that the Jade Dragons are positioning, though, I was thinking they might be happy with just taking a breather. I don't know. I think you got to maximize your Fire Giant. I mean, if you got 45 seconds, you got a chance at it. Why not? See what you can get done. Knock up on Genetics helps. Big Man Ting stunned. Goodbye. Killing spree for Pagon. And that is setup and knockdown brought to you by Polar Bear Mike and Pagon. Icing on the cake with all the damage that this Uller is going to output. Camelot Kings now without their mid laner for 45 seconds.
He had beads and Aegis. Only used the beads, but did not respect the Aegis. Twig is in the wall here, gonna have a lot of damage, but the siege begins.
Genetics is in the back. Stun onto the carries of the Jade Dragons. River's Rebuke is up. Genetics belly flops his way back, but it's only as far as the rest of the Jade Dragons. Captain Twig now buying time, maybe delaying out when Big Man Tings can respawn. Mid lane Phoenix is gone. The call is end. The Jade Dragons will prove me wrong.
They'll
and
hang
they will
up the
turn
phone.
out. They'll hang up the phone, and the Fire Giant will be calling in about 50 seconds.
Yeah, Twig just gonna clear some of these waves as Fine OK continues the chase. I thought, you know, rightfully so, the crushing wave could have been the option here. Twig is gonna have to get some juke shoes out, but Variety's gonna help.
Well, Variety was here. Variety doesn't do much damage. This is all on Captain Twig and juggling out those cooldowns. Uh-oh, Pagon! Yeah, we saw the writing on the wall there. Captain Twig deleted. This might just end the game as Variety, Whirlwinds of Rage and Steel, desperately trying to cling to life. Rampage now for Pagon. And suddenly there are 3 left alive for the Camelot Kings for 45 seconds. The Jade Dragons barreling down the left.
They didn't want to end now, but they are definitely ready for it here. And it looks like Genetics, Netroid, and BMT are going to have to host quite the defense to try to stop all 5 dragons.
Yeah, there's no beads for Big Man Tings. Netroid has both of his actives. A glimmer of hope, but that's about it for the Camelot Kings here. Game 3 looms large over the horizon. The Jade Dragons fight back in, and they do it effectively. Big Man Tings tosses his ult out, but all the damage from the Dragons is onto the Titan. We will go on to a Game 3 to end this week.
I really think that siege just started with Mike and Pagon able to blow up BMT with both relics available.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the lead and they had FG, but you might have thought there was a chance to defend there, but once you lose your Persephone, who was arguably doing the most damage on your squad, that siege just went down.
We talked about all of this potential for the Camelot Kings. Never quite reached it in the late game here. And on the flip side, the Jade Dragons, you look at Pagon out of the mid lane, the burst damage that he was outputting, the setup from Fine OK. I think Polar Bear Mike really turned this game around. Think about how the first few minutes went, Trelly.
Oh, yeah.
Where the dual lane is just being stepped on by the Camelot Kings, and this game flips around. What a way to end this week in the SPL. Game number 3 between the Jade Dragons and the Camelot Kings coming up next.
I don't need no one to say you're complicated. 'Cause I knew from the start this might be overrated. It's so typical, you wanna give it one more try. Even though if your mind is telling you it's all a lie. Oh, I gotta wake up. This might be a breakup. 'Cause I don't believe you when you say that you miss me. 'Cause where are your actions to prove me you're different? When I say I need you and you head the direction that's leading away from me, baby. I don't believe you, no. 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 I don't believe you, no, no. One thing I love about you is your dedication. It got me dreaming at the station. On my way home, oh, I gotta wake up. This might be a breakup. 'Cause I don't believe you when you say that you miss me. 'Cause where are your actions to prove me you're different? When I say I need you and you head the direction that's leading away from me, baby. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't believe you, no. 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 I don't believe you, no, no. Oh, I gotta wake up. This might be a breakup. 'Cause I don't believe you when you say that you miss me. 'Cause where are your actions to prove me you're different? When I say I need you and you head the direction that's leading away from me, baby. I don't believe you, no. I don't believe you, no, no.
Here in game two, it got off to a rip-roaring start over on the solo lane side of the map. A lot of action to be had and a bloodbath across the entirety of the map out here. The Camelot Kings were able to hold a lot of the farm game while the Jade Dragons were holding up the kills. At the end of the day, it's the Jade Dragons in these 5v5 team fights, especially these ones around the Fire Giant, that they were able to come up massive in Mifflin. I mean, we watched Genetics flop into 5 people, and the instant that he did, he just died.
The Camelot Kings struggled to find their footing in this one, J-Mac. It felt like the initiation was lacking a bit, the damage follow-up not quite there, and the Habois was a very good answer to the entirety of the Camelot Kings draft. The Jade Dragons, essentially after that 15, 16-minute mark, had complete control across the board. But I feel a little bit vindicated, because I think Variety ended, what was that, 2-6-0? Something along those lines?
So?
Yeah. So I knew going in. I'd played with Dwarfs enough. I've seen Jing Shen in the solo. I've been around this rodeo a couple of times, and it did what I thought it would. Survived in the lane, but struggled come late game team fight phase. But you got to give credit over to Sanford Soccer. Takes the Habois for himself. Teaches Pagon what it's supposed to look like, and it does a ton of damage. Final K has a phenomenal performance, creates a ton of space, makes one individually very awesome play, I thought, where the Jade Dragons were approaching the base of the Camelot Kings. He isolates Captain Twig, chases him all the way across the map, and then eventually wipes the entire team to end up with the Titan win. The Jade Dragons showing some of that mental fortitude and team growth I was talking about during the initial picks and bans, the initial death segment, where beforehand this was a team that felt very, very much so momentum-based. And they still are a momentum-based team. If they get rolling, they get rolling. But beforehand, had they lost a game one, had it been as convincing as what we just saw, they would have generally shut down. The Jade Dragons show me now that they're capable of lining up these reverse sweeps.
Yeah, they're able to make these big and flashy plays out here. And Sam on this Habois, and as you said, you know, Pagon didn't have the best success with it in game number one. Pegon much more successful here on the Uller in game number 2 for himself. Sam putting out some crazy damage numbers with this Hobwa. It was actually only 2 and 5 out of Variety this time. Not the 2 and 6.
Got to put some respect on him. That's on me.
Yeah, 2 and 5, man. Can't be disrespecting the extra death out there. Variety will not stand for that one. But Final K 4-1 and 7 on the King Arthur, a pick that only Final K has been bringing out here in the Pro League so far. 100%
damage.
10K even. You know
that
what?
does not happen.
That's honestly probably one of the most impressive things is getting a dead even damage number there. But going back to Final K on this King Arthur, I mean, 100% win rate so far on this god whenever he has picked it out to play it. Done it 3 times so far in his matches. And he's the only one really playing it.
Yeah, the only one. Not even really. It's just him. Final K loves playing these lane bullies, loves being a trendsetter in the solo lane, and has found his home with King Arthur, which I would argue in a very good state right now for the current meta. Bluestone starts or going in towards that hammer tree, really transitions very well. We've seen him stack up that defense very early on, a couple times sovereignty in that first slot, just to leverage some of the power, the inherent strengths of King Arthur having more abilities than just about everybody else, especially in that solo lane to make up that lacking damage in the build. Final K, a trendsetter.
We'll see if anything changes up for the Kings drafting here in game number 3. Picks and bans. First one going to be out, as usual, will be the Ardio. But do you think there's some merit here up against this Jade Dragons roster, Mifflin, to maybe just take the Hobwa off the table in the top 3? I mean, wasn't the most successful in game number 1, but because of the amount of flex that it has and because we know how successful the Dragons can be on this pick, do you think it warrants a ban here in the first phase?
It feels really bad to have to dedicate a ban towards Hobwa because Hobwa is so counterable on play on field. Generally, you just want to stack up wherever he is. It makes it a little bit more difficult to counter him out. When he is in the jungle, you got to get a very good idea where Sanford Soccer is going to be rotating, where it is he's farming, how can you move over? Do you really want to go to his speed buff? Can you catch him at the back camps? Whereas in the laning phase, it's, all right, so Pegon's playing Hobwa, maybe we just 3-stack it mid and make it work. The Kings, you called for it. They take the Hobwa away, not in a ban, but in a first pick selection. And I got to sing its praises again because it is picked. Has flex potential. Can go mid, can go jungle.
But it does leave Kleena open as well as Yamoja, so Mike will go onto this Guardian one more time here in game number 3. The question now is, are the Jade Dragons going to pick up the Kleena that's been working so well for the Kings in games 1 and 2? And the answer to that one is going to be yes. Kleena, Yamoja, first 2 pickups for the Dragons.
Very consistent lane bully in Yamoja. Kleena, some flex potential in a solo and jungle. Great ability to either play that gank initiator role where you're just going in for that damage and then hiding inside a wall, or be that objective shred that your team needs to pierce the veil. So, loving what we see from the Jade Dragons so far. Neath lock in, though, for the Camelot Kings. Generally, when the Kings take Neath, it's for big man Tings in mid. So, curious to see if that is where they decide to toss that one. Showing their hand very early. Could be that the Kings give it to Netroid. There is that potential, but generally they have played it towards the center of the map. And if that is the case, I think you can very accurately say that Hobwa is likely going to the jungle for the Camelot Kings because Bologna, that's a variety pick.
100% here. And that was something I was going to bring up before the Bologna got locked in, but I didn't get the moment to do so, is that Variety hasn't really gotten to play a more bully-style character like we're more accustomed to seeing. You know, he's used to playing these Ardios, these very aggressive warriors. When he's gotten this Bologna in the past, he's typically been controlling the lane. And so Variety's kind of been largely absent as far as the laning phase has been going. But now that he's got this Bologna up into the King Arthur, might finally see Variety be able to get a little bit more active as these early games through. Bans are already ripping through for both of these two teams. Fafnir and Olaron, the bans out of Jade Dragons. Tiamat and Cabrakan will round out the Kings bans.
You know, and going off the point of Variety now playing a much more aggressive pick, King Arthur is generally a god that is going to play very far up in the lane, often on your tower line. Now that you've got a Neath matched up with this Bologna, there is deceptive kill pressure over in the solo lane. That what was it called? World Weaver? Or is it Spirit Arrow? Which one?
No, World Weaver. That's the ultimate.
Yeah, World Weaver. That makes sense. It's the global. I should have known that. World Weaver, being that global and going for that Mannequin's Hidden Blaze style of build, means that you're going to be removing large chunks of anybody's HP, percentage HP, so it's even effective against these tanks. Going to be a while till he gets to that point. But still, a long-range global stun that deals burst damage, very applicable, especially with the chase down potential that Bologna has with the Eagle's Cry or Eagle's Rally. I'm lost, man. It's been a long day.
It's been a long week, my friend.
It is weird. What is today? Sunday?
Sunday, yeah. It's
crazy.
Sunday at a little after 5 p.m.
Okay, well, it's not that late. No, we're not in real hi-rez hours. I gotta tighten up.
Well, I mean, we've been here for almost 7 hours now. We've been here for a good chunk of the day, rounding out our day here on a game 3 with the Dragons and the Kings. As those bans have come through, that Ola band, probably one that maybe sticks out a little bit more to me than some of the rest of them here. This has been a pick that Netroid has liked to fall back to over in that dual lane, especially when they are running something like these more traditional hunter mids, the on-hers, the Neaths, that sometimes pop their ways up here, even the Moose and Cobbs.
Yeah, so we'll find some value there. Cernunos locked in for the Jade Dragons. I am a massive CERN fan. I will not hide it. It's just a great pick. Having a cripple, having a root on a consistent cooldown with the ultimate change, now dealing damage to the wave as well as gods, the polymorph acting as a disarm and a silence in one place, just makes him so versatile in these team fights. Anytime you can find a way to slot AoE consistent CC into a pick that isn't a frontliner, it just makes your team fight so much easier to execute on. And it's exactly what the Jade Dragons were needing with their draft, because who's burning beads consistently? King Arthur can do it single target with his empowered ultimate. Kleena maybe with a silence, but how often are you really beadsing that? Yamoja can do it, but it's generally going to be preempt, and you're really already winning a team fight if Yamoja's burning beads. So CERN going to help out a little bit in some of that CC immunity removal for the Jade Dragons. But I need to see a little bit more. Not quite enough. You've got one large AoE beads burner, but I want to see one pick that can really make use of that burnt beads.
So when we're looking down the table here then for the Jade Dragons, with Kleena locked in here, most likely slotting itself over towards that jungle role since the King Arthur has already been put for the solo lane, the Cernos and the Emojins in a duo, that just leaves your mages out here. Mifflin, is there maybe a preference for the Jade Dragons mid to kind of get that AoE control that comes to your mind?
I was going to say ESET as one option, but
again.
locked in for the Camelot Kings, and I will think again. Persephone jumps out. The Grasp of Death, just very good in some of those situations as well. As the Camelot Kings round out their draft with a pick that we have not seen a whole lot of. 0% pick rate, 3% ban rate, which is surprising for those of you who are just now tuning into Season 9 for the first time, considering at Season 8 finals, Izanami was just the cream of the crop. Has seen some nerfs since then, but still incredibly strong, still has auto attacks that pierce entire minion waves, still will be able to establish some of that pressure early on. So fits the King's draft very well, and does confirm that this Neath will be going towards the center with Habois in the jungle or ESET. You're not playing Habois in support though, so I've talked myself out of it. ESET in support, Habois in the jungle, Bellona holding it down in the solo lane. Morrigan hover for the Jade Dragons. Not exactly the most consistent CC. Will make use of those burnt beads, though. Has great 1v1 potential. Has the awesome ability of just being invisible and removing someone from the map. Has a great matchup into Habois. And some decent transformations already. Double Kleena means that you can shred objectives very quickly. If you need a very quick get out of jail free card, transform into a Bellona, all of a sudden you're incredibly tanky, have a bunch of block stacks, and a CC immune leap available to you. So fits the draft, but slightly unorthodox mid laner, so could hurt you a bit in these base defense situations or even base siege situations.
All right, maybe the Dragons were on that same thought process as you, man. And ESET would be a great pickup here in mid for that one. And, well, they took ESET. Why don't we just get an ESET of our own by drafting a Morrigan here, though? With that ESET going over to support role, it won't be nearly as high damage as maybe the Dragons hope if they decide to make a transformation there for Pagon in that mid lane. But rounding out these two compositions, I mean, the scaling when it comes down to these double hunters, we talk about all the time. You get to late game, you have two hunters, you're going to kill objectives here. Do the Jade Dragons have a good answer to try and deal with that late game double hunter comp?
Well, they've got decent ability. I am concerned about the ability to lock down some of these backliners. Izanami and Neath both incredibly safe, so is it really up to King Arthur and Kleena on their own to finish off some of those kills? If that's the case, who's addressing the Habois, who is likely going to be a massive thorn in the side of the Jade Dragons going forward? Bellona kind of acting as the sole space creator for the Camelot Kings might make it a little bit easier for the Jade Dragons to close that gap. So, that said, Kleena's got a lot of damage output. King Arthur will have some decent lockdown. I think it's going to, if this game goes late to an even state, 30 or so minutes in, you're going to put a lot of the weight onto the Morrigan to find some solo kills. If you can remove any one individual piece of this King's backline, Habois, Neath, or Izanami, it makes the entirety of their draft much, much weaker.
Yeah, I mean, taking a look, kind of at some of the builds that we saw the last time through. I mean, FinoK was able to get this teleport online fairly early for himself, max that one out. And then going along his build path, he went for a couple of less than conventional items that we've been seeing. The Spirit Robe has been popping up more and more as of recent. That's something that he slotted into at the very end. But he also went for this Oni Hunter's Garb. So FinoK seems to be willing to build these very high damage reduction items to be able to dive in towards these backline fights.
He does, and that's solo lane, right? Like, you're doing that regardless.
Right.
Those guys are tanky regardless. But I did say that FinoK is a trendsetter and will do so not only with his selections, but also his build. That said, man, it's just not the most consistent CC from the Jade Dragons. That is my only concern with this draft, is that their initiation is going to be very high execution from an even state. Any draft is going to be easy to execute on with a lead, and the Jade Dragons draft has the potential to establish that lead, but it ain't going to be easy.
The set is 1-1. The teams are 2-1, but only one can come out on top. Who's it going to be in Game 3?
What a way to end this weekend, huh? Camelot Kings and the Jade Dragons go all three. Standings implications already early on here in Phase 1 of Season 9 of the SPL. For the final time this week, Dulcin, Trelly, and Rosie showing you everything that we've got going on between the Camelot Kings and the Jade Dragons, Trelly, and how dynamic this game could be. I largely center that around Big Man Tings and this Neath. I mean, the game changes so heavily when you have the ability to kind of gank a lane with your ultimate for free every single time it's off cooldown.
Yeah, you definitely have that option, as well as the fact that anytime you think you're 1v1ing someone, you never know where that World Weaver could be at. But interestingly enough, Pagon could steal that for himself with his Morgan. He could say, hey, you're going to send a World Weaver there. I could also do that, turn to the Neath, do the same. But there's a lot of different avenues for some outplay here. Same for Soccer. Going to be on the cleanup. Hiding in the walls, always going to be something to worry about here, as the duo lane of the Jade Dragons is still level 1.
When you reach level 2, the Camelot Kings do first. Panda Cat and Polar Bear Mike will go ahead and take that pressure. We already saw Captain Twig and Variety invade Sanford Soccer at level 2 in game number 1 of this set. Sanford Soccer turns his eyes towards the Heartbeat Camp and realizes there's nothing to fight for over here, as Captain Twig will be on the hot block for the first time this set. Really dive for first blood, though. FinoK sure would like to have an impact on that silence out from Sam, but no gap close, no lockdown this early on for these two picks. As Variety now wails away a bit of damage onto FinoK, and really for the first time this set, big change for Variety, who's on this aggressive style pick. Can Sanford Soccer juggle the aggression in a back and forth first blood? It's going one way here in the solo lane, as Sanford Soccer will poke on out of the wall, but Captain Twig is now on this side of the map, and I'm wrong, no first blood, as both solo laners live.
There's a lot of damage being thrown out there and a lot of help from the jungle at this point, so neither one of these solo laners are going to find any deaths here, as FinoK going to have to clear that wave up by himself. Opting to go for the teleport for both of them this time, so just a little bit of poke, not going to be the biggest deal. They'll be able to join that fight pretty quickly, but again, looking at this duo lane, Netrioid has so much clear on the Izanami. We haven't seen her too much since this rise of Medusa and things like that, the Cernos as well, but you're going to get clear for free. It's just very easy to establish lane pressure with the auto attacks from Izanami, so this purple buff invade could be getting looked at here.
Yeah, that's why I always pick Izanami in my games. If I'm ever playing Hunter, I do enjoy Iza because you just sit back, farm up the waves, you don't have to think too much about it. So I think a strong pick for Netrioid and Genetics. And not playing the Chiron, a big difference for Netrioid here in this set, because the Chiron had looked good, even in a Game 2 loss for Netrioid. And Genetics just continuing all series long to put pressure in on the red buff. This time, it'll drop down in favor of the Jade Dragons. Pagon will have to go back and pick that up at some point, but he's getting the golden experience. Strong in that regard. Big Man Tings, he's going to tick over to level 5 here at any moment, and that's really, in my opinion, Trelly, when this game starts to heavily change. Captain Twig, Sanford Soccer, when they get their ults, of course, as well. But immediate map impact. If the Kings are communicating and Big Man Tings can send an ult wherever Captain Twig is ganking, and there's a crushing wave on the other end, have to imagine some securable kills are over the horizon.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of damage that you have to watch out for if you are the Jade Dragons. Obviously, no form of Aegis on the map at the moment. And it looks like Big Man Tings is already charging that World Weaver. Really not looking for anyone just yet. Looking at the right side of the map just in case a squishy target pokes their head out here. As Pagon ticks over to level 5 as well and goes for that Doom Orb. Sanford Soccer going to be out of there.
Yeah, the fright in that blink was palpable. Sanford Soccer sees Twig at level 5 round the corner, and Sam immediately blinks out of there, backs his way onto his own side of the jungle. So Captain Twig reaches level 5 first. We put pressure over here on the mid lane.
They know Sam has no
Pagon
beads.
is in stealth. I know, I'm thinking Sam could be a good target, so is Pagon. There you go. 1-2 punch off of the body blocks from Sam, effective. And Captain Twig just a bit too far forward. 1-for-1 trade, but first blood to the Kings.
Yeah, no matter which target they went for there, they had the option to kill. Obviously, Sam, no beads. Pagon, no real way to juke after that stun. Even though the beads were available, weren't used. Pagon recognized that Crushing Wave probably going to kill me here, but at least we'll get the return kill. So we see a little 1-for-1 trade, but the gold lead is anything but even. The Camelot Kings have about 1,000 right now.
Yeah, they do. First blood plus a little extra farm has helped them in that department. And so Crushing Wave plus World Weaver on cooldown. That's where my mind goes here. How can the Jade Dragons then fight against that? Obviously, you need some ward coverage. You got to be playing safe at any given time, and knowing where Captain Twig is on the map will absolutely help you out. But that's just the first example of what I imagine will be repeated attempts here at Trillion. Already Pagon was the initially identified target. Any other good targets in your mind pop out? I mean, between Panda Cat and Final K, obviously Sanford Soccer without the beads. Or do you think this is a gank Pagon on cooldown type of game?
No, I definitely think because Final K not going for that beads and still has not fallen back yet. That's why we see Twig over here in the solo lane for a bit, seeing if there was a gank opportunity. But anytime you can stung out this King Arthur before like double defense is online, because you're either itemizing against physical defense or magical right now, and it's probably physical because you're against a Bologna. So that Crushing Wave is always going to be the option. Just the stun is all you'll really need here, as well as the fact that Variety's going to be. That's another body to help you CC. So I think solo lane's going to have to watch out as well. Probably just ward up in mid lane, and you can always know when that World Weaver is going to be charged up over here.
Absolutely. Big man Tings, no stranger to charging it up, seeing what types of targets are around and going about his business. Final K will finally drop back to base. Variety's gone Berserker Shield first. No surprise. And so often how Bolognas like to prioritize their build. Frostbound Hammer might find its way into this build at some point. As a World Weaver onto Sanford Soccer is in, and you don't need your Habla when Variety is on this side of the map. World Weaver, and then a jump in the Camelot Kings. They are making incredible use of the potential that this mid lane pick brings.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Big Man Tings with like 10 assists by the end of this game. Just so many ults already fired off, only 2. But every single time it's off cooldown, you have to be worried, and it seems like right now Sanford Soccer, with no beads available, is going to have to ward up. Like I said, I mean, he's always going to be a target on those back camps on that right side of the map. Even if it's not Twig, Variety can still get there just as easy. Looking over here at the duo lane, though, still just going pretty even at the moment. You don't really want to fight into these Anami because she just clears so well. But if in the event that there is a brawl, they have a few different options there if they're trying to 1v1 here.
Yeah, Netrioid, Panda Cat, both have their ultimates ready. I did wonder, as Variety has Mike behind him. Blue buff is up. Mike trying to read out the stun. Another World Weaver. This one's from Pagon, though. I'll connect onto Variety and do near no damage. And so Variety just fine. The first Jade Dragons World Weaver of the game doesn't result in much. I admire the thought process, though, from Pagon. But now Polar Bear Mike, he is under attack. There is still a Crushing Wave from Captain Twig, should he choose to use it, and he will, but won't find any damage. Now Big Man Tings rotating over from mid lane, has damage, has root, has a kill on the Polar Bear Mike. BMT affecting all 3 of the kills for the Kings.
Yeah, you always have to be watching out. Even if it's not the World Reaver, Big Man Tings is going to show up in person to help us friend these kills. And Final K, here comes another one.
Oh my god, it's absurd. Final K will dash away with his ultimate. Keep himself CC immune. This time the World Weaver, a rare, unsuccessful one from Big Man Tings. We'll have to wait for that to come back off of cooldown. Another stun from Genetics, though. These 2 teams just will not let off the gas. Let one another get out of these fights cleanly. Captain Twig rotates over. That's big damage onto Pagon. Sanford Soccer lets out a scream. And the Camelot Kings mounting pressure on the right side of the map. I imagine both hunters, they get to lane, they're just jumping at one another, they're clearing the waves, they go clear the Harpy. I mean, well, all this is happening on the mid to right side of the map. Netroid and Panicat are on vacation farming up their lane.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't have any ultimates right now. Otherwise, we would have seen even more fighting there. I think Captain Twig was trying to get as active as possible there. Even Pagon was finding a stun, but the ults are on just too much cooldown right now. Can't really get as aggressive as these teams want to. Even though the Jade Dragons are behind a fair bit, they're still not afraid to fight. I think the Morgan always going to have some avenues to get back into the fray, you know, send some World Weavers away as we saw. It really just depends on can you find someone out of position right now. And I don't think Big Man Tings is ever going to give that option. He's just been so safe.
Yeah, Big Man Tings is, we talked about it in game one. I mean, he's just so effective as a mid laner and obviously communicating effectively with the rest of his team there and his player cam. Just an absolute treat to watch. Now he's got Jotun's Wrath. So I'm sending out World Weavers on cooldown. I was anyway. But why not now? I'm gonna be a little bit more effective with those ultimates. Is how Big Man Tings is thinking. Just wait until late game when Hidden Blade comes online. This is not even a Kings or a Big Man Tings thing. I just love how obnoxious this style of build can be, where you have just immense burst damage later on in the game. It's on cooldown. I'm going to let it fly. I'm going to send it Fine OK's way. Let's roll out the red carpet. Let's get a knock-up. Let's get a Water Hands, and I'll hold on to the crushing wave. Fine OK, no chance. And the Camelot Kings add another. I don't know how you play around it, Trelly. I mean, if you have beads, great. If you have a CC Immune ultimate, fantastic. We've already seen Fine OK play around it in that regard. But if Twig is ganking a lane anyway, I don't know. I think Big Man Tings just has a kill button right now.
Yeah, it's very difficult to try and deal with. This Pagon going to take even more damage than he was trying to dish out here. I mean, whenever you see that ult come out, you just got to say, hey, we got to fight elsewhere because there's at least 2 people here right now. And the tier 2 tower is taking damage right now in the solo lane. Fine OK really cannot afford to push up that far. Even though Big Man Thing is not there, isn't he though? He always has the vision and he's able to just help out. We saw the Jade Dragons try to pull Gold Fear. They recognize like, hey, there's 2 people in right now. Neath ult's down. But just the fear of Genetics with this circle of protection, you can't really pull the Gold Fury.
Yep. And I'm curious, after we see what happens with Genetics here, he'll take a couple stuns. Rosie, if you wouldn't mind, the cooldown on Big Man Tings' ultimate is what I'm curious about here. Because at fully stacked Transcendence, so 90 seconds anyway. And so that's not all that long, right? I mean, a minute and a half is not too bad. And then you've got Transcendence, and you've got Jotun's Wrath. So you can do this, as Panicat has to use beads and ultimate to dash out. So finding value on a continued basis is Big Man Tings. Now, admittedly, I'm unaware if the 90-second CDR is at base, and then you get 30% CDR with stacked Transcendence and Jotun's. Why not? I got a minute effectively of cooldown to wait. I think Big Man Tings is playing this properly.
Yeah, especially if you're going to get a relic every time or a kill, which is really what we've been seeing. Obviously, Panicat did just have to use the beads to get out. Mike, Diz found a beautiful Rivers Rebuke.
Yeah, and Big Man Tings has already used his mobility. You can punish the guy who's been making your life hell all game long, and they do. The Jade Dragons will knock down Big Man Tings. Variety now being chased as the Eagles rally away. And 1 kill over to the Jade Dragons. Camelot Kings grab the Pyromancer. And Big Man Tings unable to backflip over the wall. And that was going to be my next question. We have loved on Big Man Tings throughout the laning phase, how he set up for the rest of his team. How does this knee start to look, though, in team fights is the next big question, because it's great at setting up kills now. What does that look like later on in the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a pick-based pick, right? You want to try to get a kill before the fight starts with your ult, or at least assist, try to get a relic, something like that. But after you've done that, you're really not finding too much help until late game when you have this full red items build. I mean, right now, Big Man Tings is able to just chunk out Sam for Soccer, Pagon, or Panicat. Any one of them, if they step to him right now with this red item build, the Spirit Arrow is going to hurt. But late game, it's not going to be too bad as Pagon realizing that Captain Twig might be coming from behind here and looking for the gank. But yeah, I think Big Man Tings is going to find some success with that ult. But late game, I think the Morgan transformation is going to be vastly more effective.
Yeah,
you just have to get to that point.
Yep, Pagon. Just a level behind now. I do wonder, Pandacat, who is lacking beads at this point for the next minute or so, I do wonder if Big Man Tings consider sending an ultimate back over towards the dual lane and buying Netrioid some space at this point, because Variety has received a lot of help, 2 levels over Fine OK, and mid lane has felt good for Big Man Tings himself because of the kills and the assists that have rolled through there, 2 levels rather, for Big Man Tings. With how long the dual lane is, might be difficult to kill off Pandacat. And so Panda might be safe. for the time being. First Gold Fury of the game still hasn't been taken, 13 minutes in. There's shred potential. When you got Big Man Tings and Netriot on your left side of the map, you have Circle of Protection as well. You wouldn't be surprised, Trelly, as a World Weaver onto Pagon, half HP's the Morgan. Does that buy some space, though? You've effectively TKO'd Pagon. Do you immediately, though, now rotate to the Gold Fury?
Seems like that is the call here, or at least going to show some face at it. They have the Circle of Protection, they have the Crushing Wave, and now they have Vision. But it looks like not ready to pull this objective just yet. I love how loud Neath charging the ult is for us, so we always know when Big Man Tings has a kill in the sights, or at the very least, a relic. Obviously, Pagon down beats.
Yep.
Aegis for 30, and here comes the gold.
And Big Man Tings will have his ultimate back in the next 30 or so seconds. Gold Fury up, Gold Fury down, and it's the Camelot Kings detonating that Circle of Protection. And they will grab it easily. And this is the scary Camelot Kings to play against. A team that is so map aware anyway, and now you've also given a team that loves to just play the map and build up their gold that way. You've now given the Kings a piece of utility to start doing this as Pagon evaporates. It's double polymorph out from Panda Cat. Polar Bear Mike has already used his ultimate. Fine, okay. Over on the left side of the map as well. Big Man Tings has ult. He's also in the back line of this fight. Polar Bear Mike takes the ultimate. Variety goes up, down. So this is probably the least effective World Weaver we've seen this game, but the Camelot Kings still come out way ahead. They get Gold Fury. They might get a tier 1 tower and they get a kill. But that's a massive silence across the Jade Dragons roster, and here comes the Netrioid. Variety is around the backside, and the Jade Dragons running for the hills as the Camelot Kings will continue their onslaught.
They can't even defend the tier 1 tower, especially not this tier 2 tower. They have the minions. That's a 15-minute tier 2 5-man siege because of Variety making that rotation over, and now we're seeing these charts. And it's not looking good. Right now, the Camelot Kings have 7,000 XP, close to 8, and 7,000 gold. Might get a few more towers in the mix. Why not? You have the lead. There's only 3 that are able to defend right now. Unfortunate for Pagon. Pretty much dies the second he transforms, tries to get into Variety to be a tanky target to survive that crushing wave. But you were still the Morgan when that wave came through.
I think that was the last opportunity for a little bit with those relics down to get a kill onto Panda Cat as well. That was well timed by the Camelot Kings to rush in and knock down Panda. Captain Twig, you know, Habwa with Captain Twig is a storied pick as well. And I remember this guy playing this pick out of the mid lane at times. And now 3-1-3 in the jungle for Habwa. And how interesting a set this has been for that pick in general. We've seen it in jungle twice, one for both teams, and out of the mid lane to varying levels of success. And I think the way it's been paired with Big Man Tings' ultimate this game has just been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you called it right at the beginning. Anytime you see World Weaver in a crushing wave early game, it's going to bring a lot of success, and we saw it time and time again where Big Man Tings just recognized, or maybe Captain Twig recognized it. Either one of them said, hey, let's see that ult, or I'm going to charge the ult. Whichever one came through, they at least knew their targets and they knew where to find some success, as the Pyromancer is going to be pulled here by the Kings. Mike is in range, but not a great steal option.
And Netrioid is over here on the right side of the map, whereas Panda Cat is not. And so by saying that, I was wondering if there might be a quick snap decision to maybe go towards the Fire Giant. But Variety is going to try to mirror out Panda Cat here. Blink forward from Variety. Panda Cat, that's a whole heap of damage. Dash away from Panda. Eagles rally in. And Panda Cat will just delay things out a little bit here. Variety will end up on the killing spree. Add another assist to the or the assist column rather for Big Man Tings. Variety gets another kill. And the Camelot Kings now with a 5 versus 4 advantage. Namely in the ADC department. They're going to walk down this tier 2 tower in mid. Polar Bear Mike throws up the water walls. Big Man Tings again, though, tries to backflip out. Gets riptided back in, which would be great if there was any way to capitalize on that advantage. San for Soccer will push back the impending onslaught. The Camelot Kings will have to think twice.
Yeah, a solid River's Rebuke, making sure that tier 2 tower stands tall here. As we look, Pagon did optimize into that Magi's Blessing, which is solid on the Morgan because you at least have a little bit of CC immunity, and then once it goes down, you can turn into someone else with CC immunity, but you are against Bologna, so Variety's going to be able to get that for free with the Scourge anytime he walks up, so Pagon's going to have to try to avoid the solo laner of the Camelot King as much as possible. With how active Variety's been, I think it's going to be a hard thing to do.
There will be Variety. And this is why, I mean, I don't know, pun intended, I suppose, but the variety of styles of play that Variety can throw over into the solo lane. I mean, think back to games 1 and 2. My man was relegated to Guardian solos. And I say relegated because it's not this in-your-face. I mean, it's purely like team play-based solo lane play. Now you give them something aggressive, a little bit more fun probably for Variety in the Bologna pick. Berserker Shield, Frostbound, Shogun's Kusari. And Variety makes that look good as well. This Kings roster always, at least since the end of last year, has been regarded as what could and maybe should be one of the top few teams here in the league in Season 9. In a game like this, showing us why with the unique playstyles they can have. Big Man Tings, if wasn't annoying enough already, hits a pretty big power spike here. Titan's Bane completed for BMT. I imagine a Mannequin's Hidden Blade will be around the corner at level 20. But if nothing else, this Titan's Bane will further chunk down targets regardless of who it is.
Yeah, we got about 2 levels before we can really see how fun Big Man Tings' Neath build.
Fun is very perspective-based, I think, when talking about Neath this game, whether you're the Dragons or the Kings.
Well, right. We are just spectators. We're a third party who can just enjoy how much he's able to do with this World Weaver across the map. Hopefully a Heartseeker as well as that Hidden Blade, and then we'll just see massive amounts of damage if the game even does get to that point here. But Gold Fury goes down, and now the Kings are posturing over towards this Gold Fury here. They have circle protection. Variety's teleporting in. They are grouped up. I'm thinking the Fire Giant not far off.
Yeah, the writing might be on the wall here for the Camelot Kings, sending their way towards right. Sanford Soccer is over on left, dealing with the Oni Fury, or the Oni Wave, rather. I suppose the delayed Oni Fury, if you want to look at it that way. Fire Giant is low. Variety is strong. And so the Jade Dragons are going to be zoned off. And look at Big Man Tings, the way he's positioning. He needs to be on the FG, but he doesn't care. He is knocking down PBM's health bar while the rest of the Kings secure the Fire Giant for themselves. And the Camelot Kings continue their objective mindset. And I'm not sure there is much the Jade Dragons can do there. This team, so far behind at this point, they probably realize a Fire Giant fight goes worse for us than taking down some towers and trying to get some map state back in our favor.
Yeah, I will say props to the Dragons for having no one die there. Usually when you have someone face check Fire Giant like that when the rest of your team is split pushing, they almost always get caught out, but not going to be the plan here. Sam does get a tier 2 tower in left, and I believe Pagon was looking at the tier 2 tower in mid, but as the Morgan, not too much split push potential, that's a hard word to say, at the moment. So no Polynomicon online just yet. Had to get that Magi's early because recognizing how much CC this Camelot Kings roster has. Pagon, if he does get the Poly online, there is some chance for some one-shot potential here, but you still have to deal with this constant onslaught from Big Man Tings, who did tick over to 20. Hidden Blade is online now, Dave, so we're going to see it. We're going to see it.
Yeah, it's time. 20% is the health damage that you're going to be taking on that item. I hope he doesn't keep us waiting long. Because, again, regardless of the Kings or Big Man Tings, I just think this is such a funny, at times, play style to watch because it's just so obnoxious for the opposing team, I imagine. I mean, Magai's Cloak picked up for Pagon. Purely to deal with World Weaver, you imagine. Sure, there's plenty of instances of CC on the Camelot Kings, but World Weaver into a Morrigan Dome has just resulted in kills a couple of times this game. So that's the sort of stuff you got to think about. It delays out the damage a little bit for Pagon down the stretch. The Fire Giant on all 5 members of the Kings for a couple of minutes. And the Jade Dragons will group themselves up around their Phoenixes in one last attempt. Yeah, that's a King Arthur, by the way, that's down to a 3rd HP as BMT lets his ultimate fly. Final K is going to be able to go back and sustain a small win for the Jade Dragons and keeping their solo laner on the map. The other solo laner is wreaking havoc on the backline as Variety goes up, down. Polar Bear Mike, though, somehow survives. Netrioid rooted in place. Panda Cat silenced down. The Jade Dragons stand strong for now.
This Phoenix is still pretty healthy here, but so are the Camelot Kings. Finally, they're putting some attention to it. Nick goes down.
Oh, man. Final K again gets melted through. And that shows you, obviously all of our emphasis has been on the World Weaver. Even when that's down, the abilities now for Big Man Tings just absolutely chunk. And Netrioid has done some pretty big damage this game as well. But Variety plus BMT have really been the massive 1-2 punch, and then Captain Twig just behind him on the damage charts. They're going to have World Weaver back up here shortly. Jade Dragons need to put up a stand somewhere. And taking all of this chunk damage isn't going to help him out in the long run.
Yeah, Sanford Soccer trying to wrap around here. Is going to be in the wall, possibly looking for some poke, but not finding much.
Oh my goodness! That is a World Weaver that took away 66% of the HP bar from Panic Cat, who now has to go back to the fountain. Circular protection detonates, and that's big value as Final K is the one who goes down. Pagon melted through. The Camelot Kings have not looked back since the early game began. Sanford Soccer, he will fall as well. Into the Titan room go the Camelot Kings, and they will take this set 2-1.
Variety is being an absolute bully in that backline on this Bologna pick. 4-0, but just looked unkillable. Sure, was doing crazy amounts of damage. We saw him at the top of the damage charts, but the damage taken, the damage mitigated, so much as well.
This is a brutal set for my fantasy team. I have Variety, of course, out of the solo lane, which is great. But he's beaten up on my jungler and Sanford Soccer and Polar Bear Mike. Who knows how to feel about this one? Kings fans are happy with the way that this set rounds out. Dragons fans, I imagine, truly confused because you get this insane performance from the Dragons against the Warriors. They look good in one of the games here in this set, but the Camelot Kings have come to play, and a unique and dynamic composition here in game number 3 wins them the game and wins them the set. That's all we've got for you here in this one, and this week we'll take a break, then the desk will take us home.
Your eyes tell me that you don't wanna leave just yet. No, my eyes agree. It's almost like when we first met. Oh, I don't care, it's getting too late. I want you and I can't wait. Don't wanna spend a minute without you. I know you feel the same. So come on, give me love. I'ma show you how to move with my body. Come hit me with your touch and make me wanna say, damn. And yeah, you know what's up. Ain't nothing I won't do for your body. So give me all you got right now. I know I'm yours, baby. So come give me love. You know you're mine, baby. So come give me love. I never felt nothing quite like this. I get a high every time we kiss. Can't get enough, baby. So come give me love. All of your love, I can't fake it. When I'm with you, my legs go weak. Yeah. Can you hear it? I think my heart just skipped a beat. Yeah. This feeling is getting so strong. Love me till the morning, love me all night long. There's something special about you. You're the one that I want. So come on, give me love. I'ma show you how to move with my body. Come hit me with your touch and make me wanna say, damn. And yeah, you know what's up. Ain't nothing I won't do for your body. So give me all you got right now. I know I'm yours, baby. So come give me love. You know you're mine, baby. So come give me love. I never felt nothing quite like this. I get a high every time we kiss. Can't get enough, baby. So come give me love. All of your love. Won't you love me till the morning? Love me in the evening. You know what I want. Won't you hold me like I'm yours? Show me that I'm yours. You know just what I want. Won't you love me like the last time? Like our time was right now. Show me what it's about. Love me till the morning. Love me in the evening. You know what I want. I know I'm yours, baby. So come give me love. You know you're mine, baby. So come give me love. I never felt nothing quite like this. I get a high every time we kiss. Can't get enough, babe. So come give me love. All of your love. Won't you love me till the morning? Love me in the evening. You know what I want. Won't you hold me like I'm yours? Show me that I'm yours. You know just what I want. Won't you love me like the last time? Like our time was right now. Show me what it's about. Love me till the morning. Love me in the evening. You know
Well, games 1 and 2 of this set were fairly close bouts between these two teams, but game 3 was anything but. The Camelot Kings are able to steamroll through the Jade Dragons here in our third game of the day. The Hobwa in the jungle out of Captain Twig looked very strong. Variety getting to be the bully in the soul lane that we all know and love. And the Camelot Kings come up with the dub here in game number 3 to win this set out against the Jade Dragons and move themselves up into the standing. I was talking with Biggie, temporarily out into the lobby and said, man, it's so crazy. We're tied for like second, third seed. And a win in this game means that we're going to go up to first seed. A loss means we go down to sixth seed. Just a crazy amount of implication on that standings here. But the Camelot Kings are able to rally this one out in game 3.
And in convincing fashion at that, J-Mac. I mean, from like 9 minutes onward, I was almost certain. Well, I'll be honest. In P's and B's, I was almost certain that the Camelot Kings were going to win because I just had no clue how that Jade Dragons draft was going to operate. Just the initiation felt like it was a little bit lacking, and it seems to be one of the weaknesses of it. The Camelot Kings able to exploit that early and utilize that Neath ultimate to gank side lanes, which was, again, what we thought would happen. Captain Twig, though, makes his stamp known in this game with a 6 KD and a ton of damage to boot. I've never seen a Hebo get active quite that quickly.
No, I mean, Captain Twig was getting active like level 2. We had a 2v2 happening
That was
over
a
by
long
that
fight.
Fire Giant. And that one spanned from the top side, the Chaos side of the Fire Giant pit, went all the way down to like the Greater Scorpion, and went then all the way back to the blue buff on the Chaos side of the map. I mean, that one was all over the place between these teams. Inevitably, though, comes out at the end of the day, Camelot Kings up on top. We were talking about, coming into this game, how Variety's been playing not really these passive characters, but these gods in this lane where you don't really get to do anything. Sobek and Xingqian are not really known for winning the lane, being these ultimate bullies. Bologna, a completely different story and a completely different look out of Variety.
Yeah, Variety back at home as far as I'm concerned. And less Xingqians in the future, more Bolognas. I'm hoping for the Camelot Kings, and I'm sure their fans can echo that sentiment because Variety just looks like a different beast when he's allowed to be that threat in the backline, when he's allowed to just initiate these fights and stick in there and stay involved. I don't think of Variety as the, hey, I'm going to blink in, I'm going to find some CC and hope that my team follows up. Variety strikes me as the type of guy who wants to get in there, get his hands dirty, and do it himself. Bologna fits that style.
Yeah, instead of I'm going to jump in there CC and hope you guys do it, I'm going to jump in there CC them and kill them myself here. 4-0-5 on the Bologna in this last game for Variety. 3-1-6 for Captain Twig on the Captain Twig jungle, on the Hobwa jungle.
Might
here.
as well call it the Captain Twig. My man earned that right.
Got it here. 12,000 damage out of him. Big Man Tings, though, still in the top damage, at least in this game. 17K on this one-tap Neath style of build here. I mean, triple Mace Tree build alongside that Transcendence. Anybody gets hit by that, I mean, we saw what happened to Panda Cat's health bar at the end of the game.
Yeah, I don't know what the actual ranked streets are calling that build, but it is just gross what Mannequin's Hidden Blade is able to do with that Neath ultimate. It's just remove somebody from a team fight immediately. It's similar to what we saw when Rom was in the meta. Just go up into the air, start a fight by dropping someone to 80%, and all of a sudden it's a 5 versus 4. That's exactly how the Camelot Kings utilize their Neath.
Yeah, a lot of setup around the map to help out the jungler here for the Camelot Kings. That's who we got standing by for our post-game interview, Captain Twig. Here, first off, congratulations on your win today up against the Jade Dragons. Now with a couple of wins this weekend on your belt, you guys move up in the standings, I believe, to that first seed spot. I mean, how does it feel? How are you feeling about the team right now?
It feels amazing. It's so confidence boosting to win like over and over best of 3 sets, to go to game 3 and maybe we lose one of the first 2 games and just kind of come back and make the right adjustments.
Yeah, I mean, and talking about best of 3s, I believe all of your sets so far have gone the full distance on that one. Do you guys find maybe more value in getting these 3-game sets versus kind of 2-0 blowouts? I mean, obviously you want to get nice and easy wins out there, but do you find a lot of value in these 3-game sets?
I mean, we probably learn the most from the 3-game sets, especially with the pick ban. Dragons may be the best pick banners in the league, in my opinion, and it's very hard to know what they're going to do. Like this set, flexing Hebo, we didn't really know like who was going where, and in those best of 3s, that's the best practice you can have for like adjusting mid set.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that we were kind of struggling on the desk. Game 1 and game 2, we see these first few picks and go, man, even we don't know where these go, and I can only imagine what it's going like for you guys over into the booth. I mean, your next matchup's going to be against the Tartarus Titans. Do you have any expectations going towards that set?
I think much like the other sets, I think it might be go to the 3-game. It'll be probably pretty close. I think if we can make the right adjustments and play our game, they have no chance.
Well, there we go. Thank you so much, Twig, for standing by for the game. Congratulations on your win. I'll get you back with the team.
Thank you.
It's always interesting to hear that perspective. You know, a lot of teams, they want to get the 2-0, they want to get themselves out of there, but from what Captain Twig's saying, being able to learn through these 3-game sets, being able to get more value out of that is always a very important thing.
Well, do you know how long Captain Twig's been playing competitive Smite?
Forever.
Do you know what phase we're in currently? Twig is using this all as time to improve the team. He is continually iterating and sharpening the blade that the Camelot Kings started on last year for one singular goal. Every single Smite pro, everyone in the SPL aiming for one exact thing, and that's to put a ring on their fingers, man. And I'm not talking about marriage. I'm talking about the World Championship. He's doing it. He's practicing. He's getting ready. And that's exactly the right mentality to have as a competitor.
He's gotten so close so many times. Maybe this year can be the year for Captain Twig to finally put that ring on his finger. Let's take a look at the schedules to see what all at least happened today. We had the Bolts get a big 2-0 win over the Leviathans to start our day out. That was all the way back at 11 a.m., if you can even believe it has been that long here. Tartarus Titans also with a 2-0 win over the Valhalla Valkyries. Very close second game in that set there between that one. And then a 3-game barn burner here between the Jade Dragons and the Camelot Kings. That one brings the Kings up in a victory for themselves. And that's going to move themselves up in the standings as we take a look now holistically after 2 full weeks of play. Camelot Kings sit firmly at the top with a 3-1 record. Right behind them, though, is the Titans and the Bolts, tied for that second seed. And then down onto the lower end here, we have the Leviathans, surprisingly, at 6th seed. Not something we thought we would be saying here in week 2, Mifflin.
Yeah, but, like, it's tied, right? The only Warriors, of course, have the head-to-head, so we'll be slightly higher in the seeding. But 2-2 are where they both sit, as well as the Jade Dragons. So I would say 3-way stack up towards the middle of the pack, and then a little bit more separation with the Solar Scarabs and the Valhalla Valkyries.
Yeah, I mean, most of these teams still 3 to 4 more games or sets to play up against some of these teams. We'll take a look at a preview of next week's schedule. To start the week out on Friday is going to be the Valkyries versus the Bolts to kick things off, and then the Leviathans versus the Scarabs. And then over on Saturday, you're not going to want to miss this one. The Valkyries and the Dragons, the battle of the brothers in the mid lane there between Pagon and Benny Q. And then to round it out, the Tartarus Titans and the Camelot Kings, sure to be an action-packed Saturday.
Yeah, I'm most excited for the Tartarus Titans up against the Camelot Kings. Just hearing how Twig is addressing that set, what his expectations are for it. Maybe just a little bit of showmanship, some I'm not going to call it false confidence because the Camelot Kings have certainly earned the level of confidence on display, but no chance. I'm not sure Twig thinks that either. But either way, I think it's going to be an explosive set, one that you must watch.
Yeah, and then obviously we'll still have more sets on Sunday. That's going to be kicking off at 11 a.m. on Sunday. But all the other ones will be 1 p.m. for the SPL. So we'll be back with the SPL over on Friday. We'll have SCC starting over on Thursday. If I'm not mistaken, well, let's have the Dragons in studio on Wednesday for some fun. So make sure that you're tuning in to the SMITE Game channel on behalf of myself, Mifflin, all the casters, production, everyone behind the scenes. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you back with the SPL on Friday. Peach it.